Last time on the Savior's Army, Leila, Toby, Toby's mom, and Toby's seriously disabled sister hid out in the woods for quite a while. Leila wanted to raise an army. Toby teleported back into town to confirm that yes, Leila's evil dad really does want them dead. Raphael appeared because it was time for the team to get an ally, and everyone hated that. Raph had some good ideas, but everyone said they were bad until Toby or Leila said them. Some soldiers found and attacked the camp, but Toby, and especially Leila, slaughtered the crap out of them. The group spent a really long time arguing about where they wanted to go until someone remembered that Flynn exists, so they went to his house. The group had a little trouble getting to Flynn's place, but ultimately it didn't matter. Leila let a bunch of men talk over her for a while. Leila and Toby progressed their relationship to the hand job level. They spent a whole lot of time talking and boinking at Flynn's, only for Jenna to character assassinate Flynn so he's just evil now, and he attacked Leila, but Toby beat the crap out of him and then they stormed off in a huff. Back in the woods, the team faffed around and bickered again for quite some time. And we're back, chapter 13, with Tobias, to see how everybody handles Leila's impulsive decision to try and free all of her servants. Tobias is on board. In case you were concerned that maybe this might cause a slight argument between them, he's like, no, I completely understand. She saved my family, I should save her family. And it's like, yeah, I'm fine with the fact that he gets there, but I would like him to be slightly annoyed a little bit. It's okay if this couple sometimes have disagreements. We don't need to do, and I don't think Jenna's interested in doing, and I'm okay with that. We don't need to do some big giant conflict that makes them want to break up as a couple. I am actually here for couples who don't have those in books. We don't need to do that every single time. There doesn't need to be some sort of massive misunderstanding that could have been easily solved if they talked to each other for 10 seconds. But they also don't have to agree 100% on everything. They can have a little argument. They can have different opinions about things. And so far, Tobias has always been 1000% on board with whatever Leila wants to do. So Raphael, the reason that Raphael is here in this group is because he gets to have the logical arguments that Tobias is not allowed to have. So Raphael is like, what are the logistics of this? You want to save your staff. How many people is that? And Leila's like, it's a lot. It's everybody who opposes the sovereign. And Raph is like, yeah, how many people is that? And of course, Tobias is like, she said it's a lot. And I'm like, that is not helpful, Toby. I wish that Leila could be having this argument with Tobias instead of this third guy who's just here to be the one who brings up good points and argues them so nobody's feelings have to get hurt in the couple. So of course, they're just like, we're saving Leila's people, end of discussion, because they're the two parents of the group, and anything Raph brings up can easily be shot down by either of them. They're like, don't worry. Finding a safe place for all of these people will allow us to find a safe place for ourselves. That's logical. And I'm like, no.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
That's a lie. Leila says, how close are we to the nearest town? And Raph says, 5 days travel if we're consistent. And I'm like, nope, there's a town within a day. It's the one where your old buddy Flynn used to live, because he doesn't live there anymore. He's been replaced with some sort of demon creature. But that is the closest town. I assume that we're meant to understand that that town doesn't count. So they're like, Raphael knows this area. We can give him shadow walking, and then he can shadow walk all of us together, joint teleportation, close to the town. Tobias is then going to go into the town because Tobias can quote-unquote handle himself and scout it out, I guess. Every time Raphael points out a logistical issue, Tobias or Leila just get sarcastic at him, and apparently that solves it. Because he's like, what is our plan though? Logistically, what's our plan? We have a large number of people to save. And Tobias just quips at him, and then we move on. And I'm like, but we haven't actually solved anything. Quipping at Raphael is not actually helpful, Tobias. Military strategy via nuh-uh. Very clearly, the horses come with built-in saddles in this universe, because Tobias grabs some packs and he throws them onto his horse's butt, and then is tying them to something. Doesn't even say that he's tying them to the saddle, but I think we're meant to understand that he is tying them to the saddle, which means he was just having his horse stand there saddled all day because he's an ass. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that Jenna and a lot of other city slickers as well just sort of think that horses come pre-equipped with saddles. Like whenever you need to ride your horse, the saddle just appears on its back somehow. All right, so I thought everybody was going, but I guess it's just Tobias. Raphael teleports Tobias closer to the town so Tobias can go do his scouting mission to find an inn, I guess is the plan, even though Raphael pointed out that that was a bad plan, but then Tobias was snarky at him, and therefore it's a good plan again. I wasn't sure what to picture here. He trotted down the street, passing draped riders atop spinning camels and donkeys pulling carts of wheat. Draped riders. I was assuming they were like draped over the camels, but I think he means their clothing is very like flowing, like draping. And also the camels are just constantly spitting, apparently. Unless she thinks it's a breed of camel. Has his horse ever seen camels? Who knows? Jenna doesn't think about things like that. One of the things that a lot of people neglect to think about when riding horses if they're not familiar with them is that horses each have their own personality, and each of the horses in the group that Tobias has would have a distinct personality, and also he has a stallion and a mare in the same close proximity, so that mare's going to be pregnant. Just saying, that's 100% happening. But yeah, they would each have their own personality and have their likes and dislikes. For example, my horse Mouse, I find her extremely safe. She's a wonderful companion. She takes care of me on a ride. Just me, though. Like, Mouse is one of those one-person horses that you hear about. Anybody else, she would not. She would freak out. Like I said, she's very much a one-person horse. I am her rider. I am her partner. I ride her safe as can be. I would not put anyone else on that horse. Every horse has a different personality, a different style, a different people that it likes better than other people. But in so many of this type of book, the horse is just a car. By the way, once again, I find myself plugging my own books. I often have horses in my fantasy books, and they all have their own personalities. In Adventure of Mage, there is Strawberry, and then in the second book, I add a second horse. His name is Bunny. Readers love him. They liken him to a horse himbo. So if you want horse characters that are actually also characters in their own right, please check out my fantasy stories. Anyway, back to this. Something else they haven't thought about is that their horses are also recognizable. They're all worried about Leila getting spotted because, yes, she does glow, so that's a valid concern. But their horses are easy to spot. It's a very large animal. They would have fairly distinct markings unless they're all riding like very similar horses. But we know that Tobias's stallion is black, and we know that the mare is a buckskin. We don't know the color of the third horse. I've just been picturing your standard bay. That's another thing that Tobias is failing to think of in his strategy, is that every time he rides a horse somewhere and potentially gets spotted, that horse becomes more and more recognizable. Tobias can sense, though, that the mood in this town that he's in is stressed. And when he eavesdrops on a conversation, of course the cause of this stress is the only thing that anybody cares about, which is the fact that Leila is missing. Which does make sense, because she does keep the realm alive. Supposedly, she hasn't been doing that. Has not been doing her physical realm-saving activity, but maybe she doesn't need to. That could have all just been for show. We don't know. This is the only thing people ever talk about. They don't have their own lives. They don't have their own concerns going on. Nobody's like, hey, I'm more upset that there are soldiers in my town messing up my day, and then they are about like, oh, that Tobias guy stole our savior and we're upset about it. Again, apparently these peasants were also watching the tournament, because one of them's like, I never trusted the artist. And I'm like, how do you even know? How has everyone seen the Sovereign's Tournament enough to form opinions about the people who were in it?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
We're treating it like this is a broadcasted television program, not something that presumably only people who could afford to travel there and afford to go watch it. I'm assuming there were tickets sold, because otherwise how would you ever, keep the crowds under control? How does every single fucking peasant have an opinion on who Tobias is as though they were watching the tournament? Tobias spots a wanted poster of himself.
They just can't get my nose right.
Somebody who looks like Tobias is being apprehended. He does get freed, but in the process, Tobias learns that it's up to 6 armed patrols that he supposedly killed at this point. I don't know why we have this sequence. There's a whole sequence where Tobias sees somebody who's obviously also an out-of-town traveler, follows that guy. That guy knows where the inn is, so Tobias finds the inn. I think we could have skipped that, save yourself like half a page, and just had Tobias find the inn. Apparently, to get a room at this inn, you need to first purchase a drink at the bar, which is an interesting policy. Tobias thinks he can't drink his beer while wearing his cowl. Does the cowl also cover the bottom part of the face? Because I thought it was just covering, like, the top of his face. I thought he was doing a full, like, Aragorn Strider look, you know, with his hood pulled way, way down. But I guess it's also pulled up over his mouth.
So I was curious if I was just stupid and didn't understand what a cowl was, but according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it is a hood or a long hooded cloak, especially of a monk, or a draped neckline in a woman's garment. However, looking at images of cowls, you have what would be considered the medieval cowl, which is a hood, and then a more seemingly modern garment, which seems to be rather scarf-like or a tube of fabric that's covering the lower half of your mouth. I assumed in a fantasy book that we would be going with the medieval cowl, meaning a hood, but I think Jenna went with the fashion cowl, covering the lower half of Tobias's face, hence my confusion.
But in moments, Tobias is being propositioned by a sex worker. I'm curious if this woman is trying to proposition Tobias, and this is not the bar where she works. She works, like, down the way, and she's trying to get him to come with her, which you'd think the barkeep of this bar might be annoyed by, because she's trying to take his business. But it would be interesting if Tobias was like, aha, I have found the perfect hiding place for Leila's people. This brothel. This sex worker is extremely determined, though. Tobias has turned her down multiple times, and she keeps being like, but what about this angle? She's like, oh, you're betrothed. Well, don't worry, because I am highly trained to please multiple people, so you just bring your betrothed with you. Now, here I think Jenna is trying to be topical with the way that things are happening in the United States right now, because a couple of guards come in and they're like, we're looking for Tobias. Let's racially profile him. You got anybody who looks like him? And the innkeeper's like, this is private property. I have the right to kick you out of here. You're not allowed to be in here. This is not a police state, essentially, is what he says. And I don't know how I feel about it. It feels like a little bit weird, but I don't know. Yeah, and now they're, like, pinning the innkeeper down and, like, beating him up, and I'm like, okay, yep, we're doing that. Tobias runs out the back door, and what do you know, there's the sex worker who was propositioning him before. Then somebody else comes running out the back door and knocks Tobias down, and his hood falls off and reveals his face, and she recognizes him immediately, and I'm like, okay, well, is the lower half of his face, or is it not covered? Because if his hood came off, she still wouldn't be able to see the lower half of his face, I thought. But maybe I don't understand how a cowl works. Luckily, of course, the sex worker is on Leila's side, once again proving that our main characters assuming that everybody is against them is not smart. So Tobias convinces very easily the sex worker, who just happens to obviously be on his side. They should really try to devise a way to ask people if they're on their side or not. Finding alliances would be a lot easier. But she's like, you and your people, not all of the people, but Tobias and the other 4 are allowed to hide out in their brothel. So they get to the brothel, and the door is being guarded by a very large sex worker man. He also has apparently heard of Tobias enough to form an opinion. I guess literally everyone just went and watched the Sovereign's tournament. Like, they all left their jobs, they left their hometowns, they went and watched the tournament, because he's like, oh my god, you're my favorite one, Tobias, I was rooting for you. Oh no. So apparently someone called Isa or Isa runs this place, and my dyslexic ass is going to read it as Isla, so I apologize in advance if I say Isla. So they go to see the owner of the brothel, who seems to be in some sort of, like, what you would expect, like, if I was like, you're going to go meet, like, an old-timey gang leader. That's what their room looks like. You're picturing it, right? Yeah, and there is a desk and a giant black chair that they are sitting in. By the way, Isa, I don't know, I'm going to say Isa probably, is non-binary. So Isa uses they, them pronouns, which Tobias catches on to immediately. There's no awkwardness about it. It's just somebody else says they at one point, referring to Isa, and now Tobias just knows it in his own POV. I don't understand this. The Sovereign is planning something nefarious, Sabine said. Sabine is the sex worker that Tobias first met. Very, very nefarious. Tobias mirrored the holder's intensity. The holder? Who or what is a holder? So Issa is like, how do you intend to pay for this hospitality that we're going to show you? And Tobias is like, we can work. I think they have money though, don't they? They have some money. Anyway, he's like, we can work. And of course, Issa is like, any of you guys want to have sex for pay? Tobias says, I can ask. But we all know the only person that he would be comfortable with doing that is Raphael. So he's basically volunteering Raphael to this job. But as you expect, he manages to talk Issa into letting them stay, at least for a little while.
It's super easy, barely an inconvenience.
And that is the end of the chapter. So they're not really any closer to anything. But now they have a bed to sleep on tonight. That seems to be like the most progress that they've made so far in this book. We're almost halfway. And the most progress they've made is occasionally they have a bed sometimes. We are really no closer to the whole army situation, though. Hello and welcome back. I am going to read a couple chapters of this today, and then I don't know when I'm going to be able to read again, because my next weekend is full to the brim. This weekend was also pretty full, and I probably should be working instead of doing this, but here I am. This is kind of my job a little bit, right? We're back with Leila. Let's see what this girlie is up to. Oh yes, they are now staying in the brothel. Okay, this tracks. This completely tracks. I don't think Jenna meant for it to be this way. But Leila's hanging out in the brothel, and she can just be there because nobody recognizes her because she doesn't glow because there's no direct sunlight here. And she's just like up on the second floor looking down, and she feels really comfortable and at home here. And I'm like, yes, because it reminds her of home because she lived in the horniest palace in the universe. Like just watching all of these people having sexy times. It's just so comforting. I want to know what this means. With a simple wooden table and even simpler chairs. Are the chairs just like hunks of wood? How simple is the table and how are the chairs even simpler? We have fallen into yet another just adorable Leila Tobias moment. There are a lot of these. It's giving a little bit of, you know how in Crown Tide, every single chapter had to begin with one of the boys thinking about how much they love and miss Isla. There's a lot of these scenes just randomly throughout chapters, although often at the beginning, where Tobias and Leila like cuddle and reaffirm their affection for each other. And like, yes, that's sweet, but do we need quite so much? And it's all very similar. Okay, see, I thought they didn't have money. We keep going back and forth about whether they have money or no money, because it seemed like they didn't have money, but before that it seemed like they did. Anyway, they're talking now, after they've reaffirmed their bond, about like how they're going to convince the brothel to let her staff stay here, because they've decided this is the place for Leila's staff.
Leila suddenly caring about all of her staff feels like a major retcon, because I remember in The Savior's Sister when I believe it was probably Delphi pointed out to her that she has a lot of maids that she doesn't really pay attention to. Leila realized that she didn't know her staff like at all. She's got like her 3 to 4 main girlies and then her sisters, and that's it. And she, in that moment, realized that any of them could be betraying her. But now she's like, oh, I'm really connected with my staff. I love my staff. I need to get them out. I care about these people. When that has never been demonstrably true. So this seems more like a Leila apology tour where the author was like, oh, I probably should have her care about these people. She's going to work really hard to get them out. She's going to work really hard to free them. When it doesn't feel in character for the Leila we've gotten to know over the first 2 books.
Hopefully everybody in this brothel are as nice as the people that we've already met and will not actually force any of Leila's staff to work here whether they like it or not. But we're going to assume that they're all very, very nice people here. But they're talking and they're like, okay, we're going to need to they're going to need some kind of encouragement to let all those people stay here. And Leila says, we have plenty of coin. And I'm like, do you? Where is it? Where are you keeping it? Oh, apparently it's Tobias's money. She didn't bring any money with her, but Tobias brought money with him. And so he's like, I don't know how I feel about, he's not saying this out loud, but he's thinking it. I don't know how I feel about spending money on Leila's staff staying here out of my family's money. And then they start having sexy times again. This time he is going to give her a full blowjob. Tobias knows how to do that. I mean, he did have one girlfriend before who was older, although it was definitely an older woman taking advantage of a young boy, which was gross, and we never acknowledged that. But anyway, so maybe he learned from her. She does call his lips pillowy, which is interesting. We are being very thorough in our blow-by-blow of this blow job, and I don't appreciate it. Thank you, but I'm good if we just kind of gloss over this. So they just do it for a page and a half. You didn't miss much, and now we have a time jump. A hallmark of Leila and Tobias's leadership style seems to be keeping things from people as long as possible. So he didn't tell his mother or the rest of them that they had not told the brothel their plans to get Leila's servants here. And there's no good reason for it. He says it was so they could adjust to life here at the brothel. And I'm like, it's been like 3 days. I don't think they're adjusted to life here, quote unquote. And also, just tell them. How does keeping secrets from grown adults who you need the help of, how is that good? Do we have... Leila thinks about Toby's bits at an awkward moment. Yes. All right. We're crossing that off because they're having an important meeting, but it's in the room where they do it. And she's fondly thinking about sexy times while they're having a serious meeting. So here we go. Leila thinking about Toby's bits at an awkward time. Focus, girly. We finally find out that the amount of people that Isla wants to bring is roughly 40. I don't even know if this brothel can sustain 40 more people. Luckily, Raphael is totally on Tobias' side. He's like, you were right to lie to the brothel owner and say there were only 5 of us. Oh, don't worry about space. Naomi just said this place is massive. So good. We don't have to worry that they don't have enough room for 40 more people. They are really serious about their sexy times in this town. Luckily, though, I feel like because all of the staff are from the horniest palace in the world, that they'll probably actually want to take jobs here. Because, like, that's just roughly the same as what they were doing back home. But they could get paid for it. Apparently, Raphael can cook because he bails on the meeting to go make sweet rolls in the kitchen. There's a kitchen here in this brothel. We need to know that Leila is so, like, self-deprecating and not a selfish person. We need to know that because she feels so bad about asking for Tobias's money for her staff. She's like, I feel like I'm being selfish trying to save all of these people's lives. Girl, there are ways that you could feel bad about being selfish, but I don't think trying to save everyone's lives is one of them. Luckily, of course, Naomi is all on board with spending their family's money, and Toby's mom comes around to it. She's like, and it's not very difficult. She's like, all right, we can save people, I guess. I wish I knew what we were doing with her character. She's here, at least for the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets fobbed off on this brothel soon. And, like, there's room there for an arc. For Toby and his mother, and Leila and his mother. We're not doing it. She's just kind of present to be grumpy and mysterious. Oh, what's she feeling? Does she approve? Does she not approve? And I'm like, yeah, but she doesn't feel like a whole actualized person. She feels like the idea of a mother-in-law kind of hovering in the background. Apparently Tobias was just keeping their literal sacks of money in the bed. Have they just been carrying sacks of money around with them out in the woods? These people. Survival skills, who? It's just dumb luck that they're still alive, honestly. For some reason, Leila knows exactly how much bribe money she needs. It says she knew the sum. She counted it in her head many times over. But they haven't talked to the brothel owner yet. So how do they know how much this person is going to ask for? But Leila's like, I already know exactly how much housing my staff is worth. This doling out of the money scene is taking way too long. I don't think it needs to be this long. We don't need to keep lingering with Leila's guilt over and over again. We don't need to keep checking in with the family to make sure this is okay. We don't need to watch her painstakingly counting out all the money. I feel like we don't need it. There's not really many more ways for me to say that. I feel like we don't need it. Tobias is like, I'll go talk with Issa, and Leila's like, no, you won't. I will. I'm the queen. And apparently that turns Toby on. We get another description of the same study we've already seen from Leila's point of view, but we don't get any new information and we don't learn anything about how Leila views the world versus how Tobias does, so I don't think we need the second description of the boss's study. So Layla's just having an argument with Issa. Issa's like, I don't need your money. I make plenty of money, which must be true. They have this enormous place that seems to always be full. So this town is really very much into their sexy times. Maybe if they couldn't get into the horniest palace in the world, this is the second best place. But they're just arguing back and forth because Issa is like, my workers are my family, and Layla's like, well, my staff is my family, and it's honestly pretty boring. Like, I am bored right now. I should be feeling tense, because, Layla had a plan and it didn't go to plan. The person doesn't want her money. Oh, what is she gonna do? But I don't care. I don't care about this faceless group of staff. And I know that Jenna's not gonna do anything all that bad to the only two characters we've been in contact with at the palace. So I'm just not feeling the urgency, like this has to happen. These people have to live at this brothel. So I'm just like so deeply uninvested in this scene. So this person, Issa, says no, like straight up, I don't want your coin. Your impassioned plea about family has not reached me. You cannot bring 40 people here. I have my own family to take care of. And Leila was just like, I'm the queen, you have to. And Issa was like, I don't care if you're the queen. Which is interesting, the first time that Leila really has flexed her muscles as the god queen, and this is the reaction from the one person she's tried this with. So she'll have learned the important lesson that she should never try again. But Layla's like, fuck you, I am bringing my people here. You don't have a choice because I am the queen. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure it's supposed to be an empowering moment, but Leila has been just fumbling all her diplomacy roles here. I really would like it better if she somehow won with like cleverness or like understanding instead of just, you said no and I'm not acknowledging your no, I'm bringing my people here because I'm the queen, shut up. So having done this, having just told this person, hey, I'm bringing my people here whether you like it or not, she then teleports to see Delphi. Delphi's looking rough, so that cements for Leila that she has done the right thing. I don't know why they've decided to put all their eggs into this brothel basket. Like, it's the first place they tried. These characters keep being like, if the very first thing we attempt doesn't work out, we give up.
We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
So Hylas is down for the count at the moment because randomly Layla's dad decided like yesterday that he was going to just torture his Senate because he can. He's a psychopath. He just does things like that. We have to understand how desperate Layla's staff is so that we're not mad at her for having bossed this other person around and not taken their no for an answer. I think that's what this is. Delphi has to be looking rough. Poor little would-be Hylas has to have gotten beaten up. We need to know how urgent the situation is.
I would have loved to have felt this urgency before Leila bullied another person rather than after. Before, Leila felt pretty urgent about her staff, but the reader and honestly the staff didn't. It's only after she's gone and tried to flex her weight around the only person she's ever tried to boss around before, the one non-binary person we've encountered, I believe. She decided, you specifically, I'm going to boss you around. Only after she's done that do we find out that she was right to have done so because the staff is in rough shape. Instead, why don't you have her see how rough shape the staff is in, have her being freaking out emotionally because we and she all see that they are in serious trouble and need to get out of there right now. And that's why, out of desperation, she bullies the brothel owner instead of her bullying the brothel owner and then finding out she was right afterwards.
Of course, the entire time, Delphi is like, we're fine, we can handle this. God forbid Delphi ever have a moment of like, you know what, Leila, fuck you a little bit for bringing this on us. She's always like, Leila, I'm here for you. I am your strong right hand. I will never question anything you do. I am willing to undergo torture for you. Leila's making a lot of assumptions here about this brothel, but I guess we're just supposed to assume it's just all good people all the time, because she's telling Delphi about it, and Delphi says, are we to become courtesans now? And Leila says, only those with a taste for it. There's no coercion by any means. And I'm like, no coercion by any means is a pretty strong assertion there. Delphi's on board. Delphi's like, let me go. I live in the horniest palace in the world. I was made for this. Leila's certain that this is going to work out. She's like, this is going to be great. This staff will have a good home. How does she know that she's not going to get them there and then they're just going to get kicked out on their asses immediately? Because as we mentioned, she just told the holder, that's the name for the person who owns this brothel, she just told Issa that Issa didn't have a choice. So as soon as Leila leaves, could Issa not just kick all of these people out on the street? So it will take Delphi 3 days to gather these people. And does Leila feel confident that she and her people, her 5, won't be kicked out before the 3 days is up, now that she's made an ultimatum to the person who owns this establishment? So we have another sisterly moment where they confirm their sisterly love for each other. We got to know how much she loves her sister. Unlike that other stupid sister, the one with the big boobs, we hate her. And Leila's saved the day by bossing someone around, which I kind of wanted her to do. I did want her to flex her powers a little bit, but this is a weird time for her to choose to do that. The person that she has ultimately decided to try flexing her authority against is not some pushy, overbearing man, the kind that she's used to dealing with in her father's council, that sort of thing. It is a non-binary brothel owner who's just trying to protect their people. It's just an odd choice of the first time that she finally goes, I am your queen and you will do as I say. Here it felt icky. There's a time and a place where it could feel really victorious for her to do that. Here it felt icky. She was like, I hear what you're saying about my people endangering your people, but fuck you, basically. And I didn't like it. Nigel agrees. Anyway, I will see you for the next chapter. And we're back for more of this chapter. Ignore the cat meowing in the background. I was hoping this chapter wasn't going to be too long, but it kind of is. And I was so bored by the previous chapter. Why is it so long? We're back with Tobias. Hopefully something interesting will happen, because that last chapter was not it for me. The middle bit is dragging. We have some muddy middle happening right now. We open on Tobias getting his turn for a blowy. Thanks. Jump scare. Tobias's dick. And again, we are getting an extremely detailed blow-by-blow, pun intended, of this blowjob. Like, if you do not like your smexy scenes intricately described, don't read this book. Although, I feel like this is the most described that any of them have been. Like, this is every tiny detail that I did not want or need. Also, we have completely skipped over the fact that Leila, told the brothel owner, I'm going to bring 40 people here whether you like it or not. And then she had to supposedly would be reporting that back to Tobias and co. But we skipped that scene. So apparently they didn't get kicked out, and she's still got plenty of time to have sexy times with Toby.
Something I forgot to mention was just how long the section where Leila was talking to Tobias's family about using some of their money, how long that went. That was such a long section. Like, I summarized it for you, but it was pages and pages. Jenna has too much conversation in her book. I like conversation, but her characters conversate and go in circles and talk things over too much. I love to wallow around in character stuff, but we need to not be repeating ourselves. We need to be economical with our words here. This scene did not need to drag on like it did, and many of her scenes drag on just too much. And most of that is because her characters will not shut their goddamn mouths and keep saying the same things over and over again in slightly different ways.
At least they do realize the precarity of the situation that she's put them in, because she is like, okay, but what if we bring them here and Issa just turns them away? What am I supposed to do then? And she doesn't really know. And it's like, yeah, that at least we are coming to terms with that. If it was Isla in this situation, Isla would just be right and everything would just work out. So at least we're having a moment to be like, yeah, when you strong-arm people, they might still just not do what you want. So now they talk about the very important topic on everyone's minds. What if Leila gets pregnant? They've been purposely not having P and V because of the concern of pregnancy. But don't worry, there's magical birth control. Some kind of herb, I'm sure. But I guess Tobias takes it. So in this fantasy world, men take the birth control. Ooh. It turns out that Tobias has literally been carrying around, I guess, a pocket full of these special herbs that are birth control for men, that they can take at any time that they want to have sex. So it's not like something you have to just keep taking. It's like, oh, I want to have sex but not get somebody pregnant. I will now eat these dried berries is actually what they are, which is Interesting choice. But it turns out that Leila actually apparently has control. So I guess they didn't need to worry about the birth control. She can just decide when she wants to get pregnant. So she just has sex and goes, not this time. And then when she's finally ready for a kid, she has sex and she goes, yes, this time. She can just make herself be magically ovulating right at that moment. He hasn't asked her yet, though, the big question that I have, which is like, when does the child become the new savior? Is it when the mom, like, dies of old age or whatever kills her? Or does the kid become the new savior right away? That's more of the question that I would be curious about. Why did we establish the birth control for men if it doesn't even matter? Okay, you want to have your fantasy world where the men take the birth control. Whatever. You made it absurdly easy for them. But it turns out to not even matter because Leila can just prevent herself from getting pregnant by force of will. So why did we spend all those words explaining Thessan birth control? Also, they have not been having P&V sexy times, and I thought it was because they didn't want to get her preggers. But I guess it was just because they wanted to try all the other kinds first. The drapes were closed shut. She likens having sexy times with her to bestiality, which is an interesting choice, Tobias. Because she's like, I'm not really human, I'm like a god, so... And he's like, the first thing he comes up with is like, oh, having sexy times with a god is the same as having it with an animal? And he leans in. She's like, are you comparing me to a donkey? And he's like, yeah, but a really hot donkey. Tobias, do you want to have sex with donkeys? I'm gonna need you to be really honest with me right now, sweetheart. She thinks it's hilarious and endearing that he compared her to a donkey.
So I feel reasonably certain that this was supposed to be a reference to the Princess Diaries. Roll the clip.
I look like a moose.
Yes, but a very cute moose. Make all the boy moose go, wah!
But in this case, it does not work. It just makes Tobias sound like he might be into her if she was a donkey. And also, still leaves unanswered the question of what Leila actually is. I've been calling her a demigod, but we don't know that for sure. That's just me guessing. Because she's like, well, I'm not a human, and I'm like, bitch, what are you then? Please explain.
Tobias does say that he wants to be a dad someday, and she's like, good, because I have to have a baby or the realm will die. So it's really lucky that they don't have any interpersonal conflict whatsoever about, you know, fatherhood. You'd think that maybe Tobias could have some hang-ups about that, considering that his dad is no longer around. I don't know, like, what was his relationship with his dad? I just kind of wish that they would have just a smidgen of interpersonal conflict. Like I said, we don't need some big blow-up that makes them hate each other, but something. Argue about something. Even something really small. Which, by the way, having a baby, not something really small. Also, what if the savior is a lesbian? Does she have to have sex with a man at least one time? Just have to for procreation? I mean, I guess so. Rude. But then Sabine, who was the gal that Tobias first met, comes in and is like, hey, Leila, you're wanted on the second floor. Put some clothes on and let's go. But she's not in trouble with Issa. Oh, no, no, no. The other sex worker that Tobias met, Layden, wants to hang out with Leila, I guess. So we don't have to worry that she's gonna, like, be in trouble. But Sabine takes an entire page to semi-ask, semi-mock Tobias about the fact that he is having lots of sex with their god. Yeah, Sabine only has questions about Leila as it pertains to sex with her, because she is a sex worker and therefore could have no other interests. But now Sabine poked him enough to figure out that Tobias and Leila haven't had P&V sex. And she's like, you haven't consummated your relationship? Which brings me to one of my major gripes, which is the idea that to have sex, for sex to count, it has to be P&V. Which implies that gay people just are never having sex. Everything that they do, all the activities that they do together, not actually sex. I hate it. Like, why do you care if they've actually had that one kind? It's just one kind. But apparently that's the most important kind for some stupid reason. So Sabine knows that they have been having all kinds of horny activities together. But she's like, it's just weird that you haven't had that kind. Like, you're a handsome guy. Why wouldn't somebody want to let you put their penis in her vagina? There's lots of reasons. Why is this your fucking business? Just because you work in a brothel does not make everybody else's sex lives your fucking business. Your fucking business is your fucking business, not, you know what I mean. Tobias mentions his crippled sister. I love that. Not that his sister is injured or anything like that. He has to get I swear this man goes out of his way to call his sister a cripple. It's gross, Tobias. Stop it. I'm really so over this conversation about Tobias' sex life, and yet here it continues. Now Sabine has sat down to explain to Tobias how to make Leila come with P and V. And I just don't want to be here, you guys.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Finally it ends, and I am set free from this, just the cringiest cringe I've ever cringed in my life. Now he has learned the ways of the P and V sex, though. Thank goodness. I'm sure we'll get to see him use these techniques that he's just learned in excruciating detail in no time. Can't wait. Gosh, remember when we were trying to raise an army to save a kingdom from an evil dictator? Remember when that was a thing? Every time that these people get somewhere comfortable, they forget about everything else that they're doing and just worry about boinking. So they've set up a little meeting area in the kitchen, and it heavily implies that, like, even though the kitchen is small, this is fine. And I'm like, do you know that the kitchen is a workplace and you can't just hang out in there eating whatever food you want? There's people working in there probably most of the day and probably into the night.
This is pure speculation, but the way that Jenna writes about working people makes me think that she's probably never had a service industry job.
His sister's down there. We're going to have another brother-sister talk where she just reminds him how much she loves Leila. Their mom isn't here. Their mom's making herself scarce again. Oh, Mom, always being emotional and never telling us what's on your mind. So they've been here for many days, probably close to a week at this point. And only now is Naomi mentioning, your room is directly next to my room, and I can hear you having sex all the time. I can hear you going at it like rabbits. Can you not? And as usual, a side character like Naomi doesn't have anything else going on with her life aside from the main character's sex lives. I'm curious what the other workers at this brothel think of these people, because they all are doing jobs, like Naomi's helping with the cooking, and Raph is helping with the accounting, and somebody else is doing cleaning or something, whatever. But what about the accountants and the cleaners and the cooks that were already here? Are they happy for the extra help, or are they like, this person is underfoot and I'm having to train them and I just don't appreciate it? Probably the first one. They're probably delighted. At least with the staff from the palace, when they come here, those will all be trained service workers, basically, who will know what they're doing and will be able to fall much more easily into the life here. And I don't mean services in that kind of service, but also a little bit that. Tobias says that Leila can be quite persuasive when they mention how she talked to Issa, but as we all know, it wasn't persuasion, it was bullying. Tobias says his job is to dust the bedding. Does bedding need to be dusted? Should I be dusting my bedding? Is that a thing? Tobias kisses his sister on the head, and she's like, ew, I know where that mouth has been. And then it says, Tobias chuckled, swatting at his sister's slappy hands before leaving. What are her slappy hands? As usual, Raphael is the only one who, cares about logistics, and he catches up with Tobias, and he's like, so I could tell that you're lying and that Issa wasn't on board with this. But don't worry, Tobias reassures him and is like, well, Leila just told Issa what to do, and therefore, problem solved. So then Layden comes running up to them, because we have 2 named sex workers in this brothel, and that's it. Layden comes running up to them, and he is like, I just got information from my latest client. She says that there aren't as many soldiers in the streets. He had to come running to tell them this. But then he says there are coverts in town. There are coverts. Bounty hunters keen to capitalize on your capture, which is a weird way to say that they're bounty hunters who are looking for you. Definitely, Jenna is one of those authors who likes to use more words whenever possible. But you know that old saying by good old Dr. Seuss, a writer who breeds more words than he needs is making a chore for the reader who reads. Yes, you don't have to trim every sentence down to as little as possible, but also look for ways to shorten stuff, especially things that are not super crucial, like, hey, there are bounty hunters after you now. So he led with, there aren't as many guards around, but the actual important information is that the bounty hunters are going, building to building, and so they are in danger now. That seems way more important to impart than the fact that there were fewer guards. He headed for the stairwell without parting. What does that mean? So Raphael's like, what's your plan, Tobias? And Tobias is like, simple, we're gonna kill the assassins. I'm sure no one will notice if every assassin that comes to the brothel is just dead. Oh, never mind, he's not gonna wait for them to come here. Tobias is gonna go on a vigilante mission around town killing professional assassins. Okay.
You serious?
Raphael's like, they're looking for you specifically, this is suicide. And I'm like, also, they're professional assassins. You're a guy who has about a week's worth of sword training, and you just happen to be like a natural. Only advantage that Tobias will have is I hope that he goes to Leila and is like, bless me with teleportation. Because then he might actually have a shot, because he could just teleport behind these quote-unquote coverts and stab them before they even know he's there.
Get used to disappointment.
Hopefully all the coverts are dressed in stereotypical assassin garb, so he knows exactly what he's looking for.
So the upcoming sequence is very silly. I'm just going to spoil that for you now. But here's a problem that I have. Jenna wanted her boy to be both a sensitive artist and the most natural warrior who ever swung a sword. And that just doesn't work. Why is he so good? Why is he so skilled? He was literally a painter. And then he became a field worker. And he, like I said, literally got like 5 sword fighting lessons to fight in an arena, which is different from fighting somebody outside of an arena. But no, he's just so good. Jenna's very attached to the fact that Tobias is an artist, but could it have maybe been the way I would change it? If you want to keep him being a total badass, crouching tiger, hidden badass, have him before his sister's accident and his family loses their money, instead of training to be an artist, training to be a swordsman. Maybe one of the most skilled swordsmen in the land has taken Tobias, young Tobias, on as an apprentice, and Tobias was like thrilled to be trained by this person. So exciting, so thrilling. But then, oh no, his family's accident, they can't pay this master swordsman anymore, Tobias has to go work in the fields. That would explain why he's so good at this. But no, he was a painter. And I can tell you right now, as somebody who is an artist, that does not automatically translate to martial skill.
Won't people notice if the assassins all went to one town and then never came back? Still kind of paints a target on you, even if it's not specifically the brothel. Yeah, Tobias, his single brain cell is just chugging at this point. Like, this is your plan, my guy? Okay.
Not a great plan.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You're the main character. You know who should really be doing this is Leila. She has a lot of experience killing assassins. Yeah, he doesn't even go speak to Leila about getting teleportation. Like, he could go and be like, hey babe, can you give me teleportation real quick? He wouldn't have to tell her. No, he heads straight for the door. He's got this idea. He had this idea about 10 seconds ago, and he is out onto the street to kill some assassins, I guess. Oh, Tobias is not stunning me with his thinking skills. Oh, we have mention of pigs. Pigs mentioned. It's not on the bingo card. I just felt I should point that out. Do you think that Jenna ever learned that she didn't need to give the pigs fangs because pigs already have, like, tusks that are good for ripping into flesh? This town is super fucking crowded. He gets out onto the street and it's just wall-to-wall people. Densely packed as far as the eye can see people. Only now does Tobias realize that the assassins will probably be dressed like everyone else, and so it's going to be really hard to identify them. Sweet, single brain-celled boy. Forget him being a golden retriever. He's an orange cat, but, like, not the endearing kind. Like, the kind that is a danger to itself and others. Also, is he planning to just kill these assassins in broad daylight in the middle of the world's most crowded street? What is your plan, Toby? I know you don't have one.
Oh, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Then 2 soldiers come out of a nearby bar, just beating the shit out of an old woman for some reason. This town has the world's largest and most wholesome, non-coercive brothel. But at the same time, everybody's just standing around and watching these soldiers beat up this old woman. I guess the only people in this town who are good people are specifically in that brothel. So Tobias decides that he wants to be like Isla, from whichever book she was a vigilante in. And he follows the soldiers because he's going to do vengeance since they beat up that lady. Even though I remind you that he's not here to hunt soldiers, he's here to hunt assassins, but he's already been distracted by a side quest. Tobias should be dead in seconds with this level of forethought and planning.
Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the other guests?
Don't need any help from me, sir.
That's right.
Now, the two soldiers he's murdering are drunk, but also Tobias is acting like he's been training as a warrior his entire life. All his movements are super perfect. He's like slashing the one guy's hamstring and then slitting his throat, and just like all of his moves are so graceful. And only now does single brain cell, poor dear Tobias, remember that he didn't think of asking Leila for more shadow walking powers, so he can't even escape, even though he has just remembered, oh yeah, I'm not here to kill soldiers, I'm here to hunt assassins.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
That single brain cell has just perished, hasn't it, Toby? He sees two likely assassins, and he slips into an alley to have a little bit of a freak out, and it says, he fought to still his thoughts, searching for logic amid the chaos of his mind. And I'm like, oh, it is way too late for the logic to come in now, bud. I can't help but feel that this chapter exists because we needed an action scene. We hadn't had an action scene in a while, aside from sexy times. And Jenna couldn't think of what it could be. So she's like, Tobias goes on the world's dumbest vigilante mission. The assassins have him made, though, apparently. They figured out who he is, possibly because they saw him killing two guards. And so they're following him, and there's 6 of them, which is convenient that all the assassins, apparently, have decided to, like, follow Tobias, so he doesn't have to spend a lot of time hunting them down. Luckily, this town is right up against the woods, so Tobias is heading for the woods, because he figures he can better handle them outside of a public street, I guess, even though he killed those 2 guards in an alleyway. Why did he kill those 2 guards? Why was that sequence necessary? Was that really just so that the assassins could see him and be like, that's our guy? Because the way I figure it, you could probably do that some other way. The coverts walked in a conspicuous formation. Then they're not very covert, are they?
And they are so dumb.
Tobias killed his first assassin already, because these assassins suck, apparently. Tobias just hid behind a tree until one of them came walking past him, not paying attention to his surroundings, because why would an assassin do that? And then Tobias just sneaked up behind him and slit his throat. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Fortunately, the coverts have split up, so this guy didn't have any friends with him, and Tobias thinks that he sees someone else moving, like, off in the distance among the trees and underbrush, so he just heads that way. What is happening? This is incredibly bonkers. Is Tobias, the man who has barely been trained how to fight, going to take out, what was it, 6? Yeah, 6 trained assassins. I guess maybe they weren't trained assassins. Maybe these are just, like, random peasants that decided to call themselves assassins to get a big paycheck. Is this world's equivalent of ICE? Is that what's happening right now? It's just sometimes her sentences. But the covert was nimble, readying himself without delay. We're in the middle of a fight scene. Readying himself without delay does not feel like we're in the middle of a fight scene language. Tobias has killed the second guy, straight up just won a sword fight without even being injured, and stabbed the guy in the heart. And fortunately, none of these coverts have any plans for killing besides just straight up sword stabbing, because the remaining coverts from different vantage points barreled through the woods armed and ravenous. So they're all just running at him. None of them have bows. None of them would have tried to set traps. None of them have throwing stars, you know, to make Aster happy if she was reading this book. Nope. Short swords, probably, all of them. And of course, because these people are idiots, the first man came in with power devoid of control. That certainly is a sentence. Wielding his sword like a rabid beast, which could be interpreted as his sword is a rabid beast. I've said that Jenna is not terribly bad at writing action scenes, but this one is particularly not good. And a lot of it comes down to her sentence structure and word choice more than anything else. Tobias has scored kill number 3 because the enemy is kind enough to throw themselves at him one at a time. The 3 guys are now standing there, just leering at him instead of circling and murdering him. And it says he launched his sword. Okay, that's a choice, Tobias. And then it just says the covert deflected, which is an odd way to say that. I mean, I get what you're going for, but like, I don't know. Something happened to Jenna in this chapter, and all of her sentences are just slightly off. It's like the uncanny valley of writing. So I guess we were meant to understand that Tobias attacked. I thought launched his sword meant he threw it. But no, I guess it means he attacked because he's blocking with something now, presumably his sword. Another blow sent him skittering through the dirt, using the distance to his advantage. Skittering, first of all. And also, I mean, he must have had his sword still. Launched his sword sounds like he threw it, right? Back me up on this. Tobias is knocked down, and it says he doesn't have time to get up, but it also says Tobias lunged. If he is prone, he ain't lunging nowhere. Again, these sentences are just so odd. Tobias lunged, relying on power and might, only to be met with an arm more powerful, mightier. You see what I'm talking about, right? It's just slightly awkward and odd. Like, you get sentences like that every now and then in this book, but this has been just an entire scene of some of the weirdest writing choices. Also, Jenna did not go to the school of, it's an action scene, so make your sentences shorter and snappier. All of her sentences are still quite long. Otherwise, how will you use the maximum amount of words? And Tobias hits the guy in the eye, collapsing him. That phrasing will never not be funny to me. So Tobias is down to one guy. He's gotten the other two. He has gotten injured a few times finally. I don't know why we can't just call them assassins. It's not like they don't have the word assassin because they described the coverts as assassins earlier. Oh, apparently I miscounted. He's got 2 guys left. How many swords does Tobias have? He keeps pulling out new weapons, and I don't remember him ever putting on this many weapons. He, decided he was going to go vigilante and left the brothel immediately. There was no description of him putting on 8 million swords and daggers and stuff, but all of a sudden he seems to have an endless supply of swords to pull out. Okay, now I think he's down to one guy. Inconveniently, Toby has finally run out of weapons. He's patting himself down for an extra weapon, and I'm like, were you just wearing all of these weapons around the brothel? And also, were you just carrying them around with you as you camped in the woods? Where did all of these weapons come from? I love how all of these assassins are just such faceless baddies. There's nothing to mention about any of them. They might as well be identical NPCs. But just as this final covert is about to get the better of Tobias and kill him, conveniently some people appear to help him. Tobias is like, oh, they're gonna kill me as well. I guess I miscounted how many coverts there were. But nope, it's allies. And it's Enzo! Which one's Enzo? I remember he was in the other books. But why any of this? This is so silly. So Enzo is here. I thought there were 2 of them, but maybe it's just Enzo. Enzo is here, and they're happy to see each other, and that's the end. And once again, allies are just kind of handing themselves to our main characters? I don't know. They're either completely on their own and strapped for allies, or allies are basically throwing themselves at Tobias. There's nothing in between. That chapter was stupid. That was stupid. If I was editing this for Jenna, I would be like, we need to revisit the Tobias turns vigilante chapter, because where the fuck did that come from? Okay? Let's have a little talk about that. Maybe we can find some other way to get some action into this and have Enzo show up, besides whatever that was.
Okay, but no, let's talk about it, because here's how I would rewrite this scene. So now that we know the ultimate goal of the scene is to get an action moment and get Tobias a new ally who comes to save him. That's the goal, okay? So we gotta get Tobias out of the brothel and we gotta get him into danger. All right. So rather than Tobias being like, I heard about these assassins and it is now going to be my job to hunt them down one by one, let's have a slightly more logical Tobias, who he's still maybe a little bit overconfident, but he's not going vigilante. Let's have him be like, okay, I am going to do something kind of dumb that Leila won't like. I'm going to go out and look around. I'm going to spy around and see if I can identify the assassins so we know who they are when they come for us. All right, I want to know them ahead of time. So he goes out into the street and he's trying to be inconspicuous. He sees somebody who he thinks might be an assassin. He's like, great, that person might lead me to the other assassins. Maybe he starts to follow him. That guy maybe leads Tobias out of the city. Tobias thinks, hey, this is awesome. They must have a camp outside the city. I'm gonna spy on them. oh no, how the turns have tabled. The assassin was just leading Tobias into a trap. And there's an actual trap, and not just he goes out into the woods and fights them one at a time. And here's the key thing. Tobias should not be winning. Tobias should not be winning. He should be in danger immediately when he walks into this trap. He has to be screwed. Here's the problem I think that Jenna is running into. Because she's got it into her head that she's writing a quote-unquote romantasy, she has tried to put Tobias into the role of the romantasy boy, and he's not that. Unfortunately for her, the man that she has built over the first 2 books is not your stereotypical romantasy boyfriend. Now, personally, I think that's a good thing. We have seen way too much of the same identical ass man, okay? But that man would never lose a fight. Like, that man, your Zaydens and your Kais of the world, would be winning a fight against 6 assassins in the woods. But that is not who Tobias is. We have not built him up to be that. So him suddenly being that is so jarring. It feels so fake. It's like, are we in a fever dream? What is happening? And that is because Jenna, I think, fundamentally struggles with viewing her characters as people, and so them acting wildly out of character doesn't feel as strange to her because she's just using them as chess pieces to move around instead of people who have ways that they would behave, expertise that they would know, and moments when they would absolutely 100% fail and have their asses handed to them. So now Tobias is screwed. He's in a trap. The assassins are closing in. They're probably asking him, hey, where's the savior? Like, hee, ha, tenting their fingers. Then Enzo shows up and let Enzo kill all of them. Because Enzo, as we find out later, is the warrior guy who comes from the warrior culture, who has all the fighting expertise. He kills them all. He frees Tobias. He says, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm your new ally. We get to exactly the same place as Jenna's version of the chapter, except for it's slightly less stupid and completely unbelievable, with just some minor tweaks and keeping the character of Tobias in character.
Hello, I'm back. The house is very noisy right now. If the mic is picking up any of the myriad noises, I'm sure you can hear Nigel yelling. Just ignore them, because, you know, my house noises are your house noises. We are in the same house. And we're back. It has been like a week since I read this, so let's see if I can remember what's happening. I don't know, it's probably silly. Oh yeah, didn't Tobias, like, turn into a vigilante or something completely out of character? Here we go. We're back with Leila. Apparently, Leila's magic cauterizes injuries, which is not a thing that I thought that it did. I thought it just healed them. But she's cauterizing Tobias's injuries. His injuries are also, she says, they're foul, which means, like, are they infected? What does foul mean to you, Leila? Here's a little thing that is just a nitpick, but something to remember. It's in italics, it says he shouldn't have been marked at all, meaning Tobias shouldn't have been injured at all. But then it says, Leila grumbled under her breath. There are no quotations around he shouldn't have been marked at all. It's in her thoughts. It's in italics. It's in her thoughts. And if it's in her thoughts, she didn't mutter it under her breath. She is not mad at him. She's like, thank goodness he's alive. His mission was dangerous and impulsive, but he's alive and that's what matters. These two will not get pissed at each other. Even though Tobias just like flew off the friggin' handle and went rogue and started being a vigilante. So Enzo is a Covarian, and I think I remember him a little bit better. He was the one where I kept being like, hey Leila, you should ask him to translate the written Covarian that you have, because he's Covarian, and then she never did. So he looks roughly the same as he did in the tournament, except for he's not completely bald, now he has stubble, and he got a bunch of piercings, Enzo did. He's also shirtless because Kovar is cold and it is warm here, so he just has to be muscular, pierced, and shirtless this whole time. Kovar is like the barbarian people. They're not renowned for their manners, according to this book, and he's like absolutely scarfing down a chicken. Again, they've brought another new person into the brothel without permission, but whatever. Yes, he has the broken English as well. Since tournament end, I think men follow savior. I follow men. I find savior. Easy peasy.
Hey!
Ha ha ha, now we have humor. Hee hee hee, ha ha ha. It's poo-poo humor. Tobias is like, how come it took you so long to save me? And Enzo's like, I was taking a shit. The one who's been killing all of Bronte's men is, in fact, Enzo. Enzo's just been killing soldiers for fun. He is the big guy trope without any variation. I see. She calls them units. He's been killing Brontes as units, and she probably means units of men, but also I think a little bit of it like video games. She's been killing his units. So Enzo's like, Kovar, the queen likes you, just come to Kovar. That's his plan. By the way, I have no idea what room they're in. They are in some location, ? Where Leila's healing Tobias and Enzo's eating a chicken. And I was like, are they in one of their bedrooms? Are they in the kitchen? It was never told to me. So they're just sort of, in my head, we keep oscillating between various rooms because I don't know which one they are in. But don't worry, if you're worried that Enzo is maybe like a spy or a traitor or something up to no good, Leila has a really strong gut feeling that he's a good guy. So we're fine. Yes, indeed, the Kovarians are the Klingons. He says, no one destroy Kovar, realm of warriors.
Fly. Kablow. Kablow.
Leila's getting fed up with the boys having logical disagreements, and it says, managing bickering men felt an awful lot like wrangling children. And I'm like, okay, but like this would mean a lot more if the time that we had seen her like assert her authority had been against a man. But she's not wrangling shit. These guys are just talking. Like, she's actually pretty ineffective at bossing anyone around or being a queen, which would kind of make sense because when she was living at her father's place, her main way of solving any problem was never diplomacy. It was always stabbing. So I just kind of wish that the only time that she, grew a pair of ovaries, if you will, was to give orders to somebody who just like was not a threat to her, was not a bad person, was not being annoying. I mean, annoying to her, sure. But like there was a perfectly reasonable, good reason for this person to be like, no, I don't want a bunch of strangers here that are tied to you, taking up my space, eating my food, even if they are being helpful, and endangering my people. But that's the one. That's the person where Leila's like, I gotta put my queenly foot down. But they can't bring Leila's staff to Kovar just yet because we had that whole plot point about getting them a spot in the brothel. I feel like this entire brothel segment could possibly have been completely skipped. The only reason that it existed so far that I can tell that moved the plot is because they needed a reason to meet Enzo. But he could have saved Tobias at any time from any threat. The brothel exists so that Leila has a place to put her staff, but now we're going to Kovar, and Kovar is being an automatic ally. We didn't really need to find Leila a place to put her staff. A lot of this could have been cut, I feel like.
I think Jenna struggles sometimes with urgency as a motivator for characters. We had the same problem with Tobias when he first joined the Saviors Tournament. We didn't feel, as a reader, his need to join the tournament. Like, yes, we saw his sister suffering, but we didn't feel that urgency. We didn't feel that, oh my gosh, I have to do this now, or else my sister is going to suffer like this forever. And in this case, we don't feel the urgency of the staff. Like, yeah, they're not having a good time, but also we could have really ramped this up by saying this has to happen now because Brontes is cracking down on the staff. He's hunting them down one by one. We need to get them out. And I don't know why we didn't do that.
Now they're having an argument about how they need to get Leila's staff here before they leave, but the staff isn't ready because she told them they had 3 days, and Tobias has to put his foot down and say they're saving the staff tonight. And I'm just like, why am I watching this conversation? I'm so bored by this conversation. Why do we have to watch it? You know that I like watching characters plan things out. I feel like characters should have a plan. I hate it in like every book nowadays. It seems like we skip any planning whatsoever and we just watch the characters do whatever they were going to do, and we never know what the original plan was. We never know if it went awry. The characters just do stuff, all right? And I don't like that. But I think this is too far in the other direction. So much of this book is taken up with just conversations that don't need to be this long about minutia. Too many details. We can leave some, but maybe we don't need to be always having these conversations. Just have Leila say, I'm not leaving until my staff get here. They're not ready to come, but I'm going to go get them anyway. That's the whole thing we need to say. Tobias is incredibly certain that Leila's staff will not be recognized and will blend right in with the staff here, and there will be absolutely nothing bad will happen to them if they come here at this point. I have noticed that there is a lot of Tobias being the one who gets the final word, Tobias being the one who comes up with the plan and gives the orders. And I don't know if that's on purpose, because later in the book, Leila's going to step up and start doing that, or if Jenna doesn't realize that she's kind of accidentally hamstringing her own, like, badass female character by always having the man be the one who comes up with the final plan and makes the final decision. Let the woman lead. They keep talking about how she's a queen, how she's not, oh, I'm a queen, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to make these decisions and everything. In fact, she just said the decision that a queen has to make, we have to go get my people. But Tobias is the one who actually told everybody we're getting her people tonight. She's just agreeing with him. So we smash cut to all of the servants coming to the brothel. There it is. I was noticing that Jenna's language in this book was not quite as anachronistic as her other books. Yes, they still have some modern language, but she's managed to make it flow better and sound more Fantasyland-y. But now we just have something like, God, this was fucked. Nope, we're back. We're back. Took her a while to get something that fully drew me out with how anachronistic it sounded to how everyone is talking. Wow, they do not keep Tobias's family in the loop at all. So we have figured out that they have about 40 people to bring here. But Naomi, who's standing in the dark waiting along with everyone else, apparently everyone's just standing behind this brothel waiting for 40 people to show up. But Naomi is like, how many people are we expecting? And it's like, they didn't even tell you. They didn't even tell you. Clearly, if we don't see it on the page, it never happened. Jenna has the opposite of Alex Astor's problem, where everything happens off the page and we find out about it later. If we don't see a conversation on the page, it never happened, and people were never told. But Leila teleports in, finds that everybody is indeed waiting for her, all in a line with hands linked, so they're ready to go, immediately ready to be transported. Nobody unlinked their hands while they were waiting for her. So she grabs Delphi's hand and teleports them back. Oh my god. So these servants have just been saved from the palace, where they were in immediate danger. There were sounds of guards coming after them. And the first thing they do when they see their queen again is freak out because she's wearing an engagement ribbon. They were like, she's engaged. The first thing they do. This is one of the worst cases of everyone cares about the main character's love life I have seen in a while. But oh no. Pippa's not with them. Pippa didn't make it with the group. Traitor Pippa? Oh, that would be a twist that I could be on board with, honestly. Like, let Pippa be a traitor. Let her be a Machiavellian, finger-tenting evil. She's really sided with the sovereign this whole time. Yes. Evil Pippa. Let's go. And I'm back. It is the same night, but it is later, because I took a break and had dinner. I didn't realize, but that chapter ended with another chapter from the dungeon where Toby is being tortured, so we'll read that at the beginning of this one, and then the next chapter looks kind of long, so I'm going to try not to get too distracted, but we'll see. I'm really bad at not going off on rambles. Basically, nothing could be happening in a book, and I'm still going to ramble about it. Okay, there's an inclination that Toby has been sexually assaulted, so that's fun. It says that every part of him was debased and violated in some manner.
No, don't like that.
By the way, Brontes never walks anywhere unless he's stalking. All of his movement in this chapter, he's been stalking over here, stalking over there, stalking up to Tobias. We also spend an inordinate amount of time just like reminding us that the sovereign is really, really chill about the fact that he's torturing Tobias. He's very chill, very blasé, very disinterested and cold. Like, we get it. Now they're pulling out his teeth. They threatened to chop off his dick, but they decided not to do that because he would bleed to death. So now they're pulling out his teeth. Can Leila heal missing teeth? I would not be surprised if that just doesn't come up in the next book, the fact that he's missing whole teeth from his mouth. But we discover in this scene what happened to Pippa, so I guess we won't know in the past. But Tobias gets tortured a whole bunch and then thrown in the cell, and he sees someone in there with him, and it's Pippa. So, alright, now we're going to go back in time to chapter 17 with Tobias. Delphi says that Pippa was taken prisoner right after Leila scarpered, but she's safe because she's with Layla's little friend, who is the big scary guy in the gimp mask, who I thought had died, but maybe I'm just remembering wrong. I thought he had died. So he's got Pippa, I think, is what we're saying.
This also brings up the question, though, of Basement Dad, which is what I call the big scary guy. He is another of Layla's followers. Why didn't she even ask about him? She hasn't thought about him. She hasn't asked about him. She hasn't been like, oh, we need to save him too. Why not?
And Layla's like, well, just go shadow walk and get her. And Delphi's like, no. That would be too easy and solve all of our problems too quickly. And this is a book, you see. Delphi's like, while I know that she's technically with your little friend, we don't actually know where they are. So that's why Layla can't go get them. Everybody around Layla is constantly trying to like soften everything for her. And I guess it makes sense because that's been Delphi's job her entire life, but I don't think it's ever going to be addressed. Because Delphi's like, oh, we didn't want to tell you, Layla, because you've already got so much on your plate, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but also Delphi, you've been being like a double agent in the heart of the enemy's lair. And Layla's mostly been hiding out in the trees and fucking Tobias. So really her life has not been that hard. And like, yeah, she's a little bit stressed, but ultimately I feel like Delphi has a stronger claim to that stress. There's a lot of like reassuring Layla, being like, Layla, you have the hardest life right now. We're all here for you. And I don't know how much of that is intentionally to show like how a character like Delphi maybe has been forced to do that her entire life, whether she actually thought it was true or not, and how much is just Jenna just wanting her main character to be suffering the most, because we know she likes her main character to be suffering the most. We read Eve the Awakening as well, and while that character Eve was the most powerful chimera in the world, also she had to be the most put upon. But I don't think it will ever be explored. I'm definitely getting that idea that it's not going to be explored. It's just a thing that's happening. Layla has a panic attack and runs up to their room, where Tobias goes to comfort her and tell her that nothing is ever her fault and she's a precious little baby bean. This whole scene seems to mostly be so that Tobias can comfort her, and so she can like let the reader know that she totally 100% would have rescued Pippa if she had known. Like, she would have gone out of her way, she would have found Pippa, she would have rescued her. Jenna doesn't want us to have any doubts that Layla cares a whole lot for her sisters and wants to save them. We have to know that Layla is not saving them because she doesn't want to. She just can't sometimes. I would believe their relationship a little bit more if I hadn't seen how it played out in The Savior's Sister, where Delphi was mostly useful. Like, she relied on Delphi a lot, but I never got genuine sisterly affection from them. And Pippa, she just infantilized. So Layla wants to be alone for a little while. Tobias goes back to hang out with Delphi and the other servants. And some of the other servants are calling him Your Highness and are like, well, you're the sovereign now because you're going to be married to the Savior. So we're just going to call you the sovereign. There's this whole thing going on between these sisters who, once again, I have named 1, 2, and 3, and I don't care about them. Why are they still characters? So after that pointless bickering scene, Tobias goes to see Raphael and Enzo, who are hanging out together, and they ask if there's any word from Isa, you know, the person who owns the building, which they have just brought 30 people to. And they're like, oh, Isa hasn't come out of their study yet. I thought maybe we'd forgotten that Isa existed. So far Enzo is around to be hilariously brutish. He's like just threatening to do bodily harm to Isa, and Tobias has to be like, no, we're not doing that, and I think it's supposed to be funny. But conveniently, as though summoned, Isa is here, and Isa is pissed. So they're like, you have to listen to Leila, she's the ruler of Thesson, and Isa's like, I'm not Thessinian, and they have Outlandian tattoos. Outlandian, capitalized. Okay. I don't know why this scene is happening, honestly. It's just more back and forthing and arguing and discussing. And they're trying to convince Isa, and Isa's not convinced. But then Enzo's like, I have even more money. Just conveniently, I have a whole bunch of money that Isa can have. Because apparently the bags of money that Leila gave them was not sufficient. Apparently he's just been stealing from every soldier that he kills. Now he's got money. So Enzo's like, come with me, I've got loads of money. They go over to one of the rooms where 3 guys are doing it, and Enzo chases away the men, and underneath the bed where they were doing it is his money. Apparently he cleverly hid his money under a pile of men having sex. Okay. There was zero hint before that Leila just wasn't offering enough money. And it works, and that whole scene could have been an email. And we're still going. We're going to time jump here. Apparently they are taking Tobias's family with them to Kovar. I thought they were probably going to ditch the family here because honestly the family does nothing. Tobias dragging his poor sister everywhere across the countryside, and his mother who doesn't really have a personality besides looking stern sometimes, was not adding to the plot. But I guess they're bringing him. The fact that they can teleport just about anywhere that anyone has a memory of, so they can go to Kovar because Enzo remembers it, makes this less of a journey book. Like, I know Jenna was saying that this was kind of a journey/quest book when she was making a video about how to write journeys and quests, and she hasn't actually done that. But perhaps they will get to travel after all because Enzo apparently cannot teleport. I don't know if we're implying he's just too dumb, or whether his people are like immune to the Savior's magic or something.
So I'm not sure where to put my extra thoughts on this, so I'm just going to put them here. I have a theory now, after having finished the book and thought about it. Because, like, this is the only time that this happens. Leila gets in a giant tizzy over it, as you'll see. But, like, ultimately we never find out why Enzo can't teleport. I have a theory, and my theory is that to be able to teleport, you need to be able to picture something in your head, and I theorize that Enzo has aphantasia. He cannot visualize things in his head, so he cannot picture his home, and thus they cannot go there. Because every time that Leila teleports, or someone else teleports, we have them picturing the place that they want to go. This is just my theory. This is in no way at all substantiated by the book. I just suspect that might be where this is going. But in the case of the book, as you will see, Leila has a whole meltdown about it and continues to freak out about it for the entire book, and no one ever thinks that this might be the problem or even asks Enzo, hey, can you picture something in your mind? But I theorize that if we ever find out what happened there, that is what it is going to be. If I'm right, I don't know why Jenna didn't have that be a thing in this book, like where they figure that out, but maybe it's a big reveal for book 3, ?
There's a fart joke though. Enzo is concentrating so hard that he farts, so that's super necessary. The tone of this book is also having issues, kind of in the opposite direction of Alex Astor. Alex Astor will be kind of like weird and goofy and then like really, really dark. This is bordering on dark, not as dark as Jenna thinks it is. And then they'll have potty humor, teenage boy humor. And I'm just like, that doesn't, But Leila doesn't know why it's not working, and everybody fucking freaks out. But now Leila's all freaked out because she's like, oh no, my magic's not working, and that's never happened before, and I don't understand my magic because I didn't have a mother to teach me, and just she needs another reason to be insecure. Also, can we talk about, all right, stopping and having a ramble, even though I said I didn't want to in this long chapter, can we talk about the fact that Leila went and gave orders to somebody? She went to Issa and told Issa, I don't care what you have to say, you're going to do it my way. And then Issa, sort of rightfully, was like, no, I'm not. But then Issa went to Toby, and Toby sorted it out. So Leila needed her man to sort out a situation behind her back, because when she tried to do it, she failed. And I really want Leila to actually do something. Like, I feel like Jenna feels like she's written a feminist book, but I don't know that she quite has, because the one who gets everything done is Toby. Leila gets to be pitied and felt sorry for because she supposedly has the world on her shoulders, except for the one who makes all the choices and who gets the cogs moving and who solves the problems is the man, is Toby. Leila's not actually, if you look on the page at what is on the page, not what's being said in the character's thoughts, not what's being said, outside of the narrative, Leila isn't solving jack shit. The only thing that she has done, decided to do and actually done, is saved her staff. And that is only because she's the only one who can do it. And also, other people didn't want to do it. And Tobias had to come in and be like, no, you have to listen to her and we're doing this. Like, if she had been on her own, people would have just vetoed her. Like, she has no voice of authority and it's making me mad. Apparently their god lives in the sky because he says, God above. I wish we knew anything about their god. Apparently their god is an it, however, and also something that you can believe in or not. I guess Tobias is I don't know what he'd be, a saviorist, because he's like, their god above if it truly existed. So not only is the god above, apparently, but also it's an it, and it might not exist. There are people who don't believe in the god, but they do believe in the savior. So how does that work? But yeah, everybody's just freaking the fuck out. They're acting like this is the worst thing that could have possibly ever happened. This scene, all of these scenes feel like they just go on for too long. Like, I'm not saying that a lot of these scenes shouldn't be in the book. I'm just saying that they maybe don't need to go on as long as they do. We have to check in with everybody's facial expressions, with what everybody's doing. We have to have quippy lines from everybody. It's too much stuff. Put some stuff back, Jenna. But everybody leaves so that Tobias can once again smooth things over and tell Leila how amazing she is, while also simultaneously saying she's a poor precious little baby who should never worry her sweet little head about anything ever. Leila has decided that the reason they couldn't teleport was 100% her fault and not Enzo's. Has she ever tried to teleport somebody who wasn't from Thesson before? Because I think that might be a factor and she's not thinking of it. Tobias wants to go to the capital real quick to go get some supplies, I guess. I don't know why or what, but I'm sure he's up to no good again. He's like, hey, lend me some teleportation. Tobias has the brief thought that the problem may be Enzo and not Leila's magic, but he's too busy teleporting away now. I'm really curious if the Savior can choose when to get pregnant. Why does she have to menstruate? Just, she's a magical being. Why? She clearly can ovulate whenever she wants. I'm asking this because Tobias specifically picks her up menstruation supplies. So I guess that's what they're doing about it. He really just went into the capital to get some groceries. I don't know. I feel like there could have been a more efficient way for this to happen, but what we really are needing is some more exposition about how things are going in the rest of the world, so that's why we're actually here. You see some soldiers. They're looking ominous. The soldiers are like, the Savior has been spotted in the south. And Tobias is like, the south? That's where Leila is. And apparently the south is like that one town, because south is pretty broad. But we're not done with the empty husk of what remains of the character of Flynn, because apparently he tattled, which is something I could have told you he was going to do when you just beat the shit out of him and ran away. We've decided that Flynn is a villain of this story, or as I like to call him, not Flynn. Not Flynn is like, Leila should be my bride. I need to find and free her from that evil, evil bad man, Tobias. Where are the Outlands? Because not Flynn says that Tobias is touched by the magic of the Outlands. So, like, where is it? Why does it have magic? Apparently Issa is from there. Does Issa have magic? What is our thought about the Outlands? Do we travel to the Outlands? Is it on the map? I can't tell because this map is so stunted. I'll never even be able... Yeah, I can't read that. I'll have to go online and see if the Outlands are on the map. But we can't let not Flynn have too many flowers, because he gives an epic speech about how he's going to fight Tobias and save his bride, and then, like, a couple people clap. So, like, Jenna cannot stand to have her bad guys have a moment of, like, victory, where the people like them, or they're cooler than Tobias and Leila for, like, 10 seconds. Again, this is not Flynn. I don't know where Flynn is. So he's just doing a Gaston kill the beast speech, trying to rile up the peasants. They don't seem terribly enticed, so I don't know how well that's going to go, but I'm sure he'll show up with an army later so that Tobias can beat him up a second time. Because if we know one thing about Jenna, she likes her bullies to get beaten up, preferably multiple times. We're back. It's been a week. All caps. But we are finally back to read some more of this. We're like halfway through, y'all. I feel like while I am making good time through this book, it feels fairly plotless. I thought it would be more focused. Leila's trying to raise an army to go up against her dad, and instead there's a lot of just meandering. And, oh, we're doing this now. Like side quests. Like, oh, I need to save my staff, so we need to go hang out at a brothel for an extended period of time. I really thought that it was going to be a little bit more Like, I thought it was going to be tighter, honestly. Especially for, I mean, Jenna, we know she's a rigid plotter, so it feels like this should be a little bit more plot-driven. We know she's not good at writing characters, so her stuff probably shouldn't be character-driven. But anyway, we're back with Leila. Oh, we finally have the mirror mummies back. I thought that maybe we forgot that aspect, because she was definitely having a lot of sex with Tobias in that room with a giant mirror, where I assumed the dead were just watching them do it. Maybe I think the headcanon that Leila is an exhibitionist and she likes it when dead people watch her do it. This is why she and Tobias don't have sex out in the woods. It's not because their friends and family are close by. It's because there's no mirrors. How are the dead supposed to watch her have sex? Leila is having an entire existential crisis because one time her magic didn't work the way that she expected. And so she's like, my magic's not working. It's broken. It's betrayed me. And I'm like, or there was some other kind of situation happening. Like, the back of the book made it sound like Leila's magic was going to be kind of like out of control. And instead, one inconvenience happened and she's melting down. It says she tried 3 more times to bless Enzo and the magic wasn't taking. And I'm like, I think that's him. Because you just literally teleported all of your staff here using your magic. So it worked on all of them. So I think it's just Enzo who's the problem. Another weird sentence from Jenna. I gotta point him out every now and then. Tobias was still asleep, his nakedness wrapped around the empty spot Leila used to occupy. That is a really weird way to let us know that he's nude. His nakedness, not his naked body, his nakedness is wrapped around the spot that she used to occupy. Okay, sure. We're having a whole conversation between her and Delphi, again, about Pippa. Jenna really wants us to know that Leila cares about her, like, sisters and her staff. But I almost feel like Jenna's gone too far the other way and she's trying too hard to convince us. We don't need to see every single conversation where Leila is concerned about Pippa or her staff or whatever. Like, we can believe you sometimes. Like, a couple conversations, sure, that's okay. But it's just going on too long and there's too much of it. But Delphi's like, they took Pippa away. She's not in the palace. She's with your basement dad. Somewhere we are pretty sure it's safe because she's not near Bronte's, and so that must mean she's safe. And Leila's like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Leila thinks about a time when her hands are going to be covered in Bronte's blood, and I'm like, that could be today. Take a dagger, teleport into his office behind him, stab him. You could have this done today. You know how Aster leaves everything out? Stuff just happens off page and we're supposed to assume that it happened. Jenna tends to put too much in. She wasted no time waking Tobias, who made himself presentable before they set off to Raphael's chamber. I don't think you need to tell us that he made himself presentable. I think that we can safely infer that he didn't go to Raphael's chamber naked. Like, there's a balance. Somewhere between Aster and Jenna, there's a balance of what you, like, show to your reader. But they're going to have to travel to Kovar on foot. They keep hemming and hawing about where they're going, but I guess it's Kovar now, and they're leaving tonight. But they are thinking about leaving his mom and sister, who, to be fair, have been pretty much just useless tag-alongs this entire time. I will give it to Tobias' mom. She's getting the most lines that she's ever gotten so far. She's upset. Naomi's upset. Everyone's upset that they're being left behind. But Leila makes an impassioned plea about Pippa being stolen, and for some reason that works. Like, she's like, my sister's stolen, I don't know where she is, so we have to leave you behind. I don't know why those two things correlate, but it works. It would be really cool, I don't think we're doing this, but something that you could do with Leila is have her learn to be more diplomatic, have her learn to reach out to the humanity in other people. And I would start with the person who owns this brothel, with Issa. When Leila goes to Issa and is like, first, I will give you money. And Issa's like, I don't want your money. Then Leila could be like, well, I will give you orders. And Issa would be like, I will disobey your orders. Then let Leila and Issa have a conversation as two human people who care about their family and make that the thing that finally changes Issa's mind. That's what I would do with Leila, is because we're trying to set her up as different from her dad, I'm pretty sure. I think what Jenna's trying to do is be like, Leila is not like her father. She's not vicious. She's not aggressive, even though she is a lot of the time. Whenever Leila does, like, finally succeed at something, like right here, it's through an impassioned plea. The plea didn't make a whole lot of sense for the situation, but she made it. I don't know if that's what Jenna's trying to do, But I think that might be what I would guide her to do if I was editing this book for her, is I would be like, let's focus on ways that we can show Leila learning how her connection to people is how she's going to make allies. Naomi, the little sister, points out that she's still having healing sessions with Leila, and she's stressed because without those, she's worried that her condition's going to backslide, which is a legitimate fear. And Leila's like, oh, well, when I come back, I'll take care of you. And I'm like, good, great, but also you are actively, like, abandoning her mid-treatment. So she has a right to be upset about that. There's a bit more banter between Raphael and Naomi, but I still think that they're endgame. Hylas then comes in, and he's like, Hylas, our favorite twink, he wants to help as well. Are we just going to be like all dudes and Leila? Because she's also not taking Delphi. Leila says that she speaks Kovarian. How much longer is this just preparing to go chapter? Can we just go? Oh, good. Thank God. Something's happening. One of the sex workers comes in, and they're like, the soldiers are here. So the soldiers are doing a random search, and Tobias is like, we need to hide in the wardrobe. And I'm like, your girlfriend can teleport. Just be not in this room at all. Why? They wait until the soldier is literally basically on top of them, hiding in the wardrobe, before she's like, maybe I should use shadow walking. Because they're like, they did some lip service, like, oh, we can't abandon Tobias's mother. And it's like, you can for like 10 minutes while the soldiers search your room and then come back. You know that, right? All of a sudden, Enzo shows up and starts killing the soldier, because that's what Enzo does. He likes killing soldiers. It's his life calling, I think. Of course, this is definitely going to endanger the brothel a lot more, but I don't know if we're going to think about that. Like, if these soldiers went in and never came out. This weird, almost comical moment is so odd. I think we're supposed to be chuckling at the goofiness of this moment, where they almost get caught, but then Enzo kills a guy, and now they have to figure out what to do with his body, like comically try to hide the body when they themselves were just hiding because, oh, Enzo, he's just so murdery. And I'm like, I just don't know how to feel. How am I supposed to be feeling in this scene? Why is this happening? There's also a lot of like sort of goofy, jokey bantering happening as well, which inclines me to think I'm supposed to be laughing at this. So Leila decides to just screw it, and she teleports behind. The new soldiers came bursting through the door, and she teleported behind them and is stabbing them in the throats, as is her way. And she's like, well, now we've done it. We just have to kill all the soldiers that are in this building. What a awful plan. I would have just cut this soldier scene entirely. What is this doing? All this is doing is endangering the people in this brothel because these soldiers will have come here and then not come out again. Why are we doing this? They could have just left. Leila and company could have just gone to Kovar. Why? So now we're just watching Leila and Enzo go through the brothel killing soldiers like this is a video game. So one of the guards that's attacking her decides to be kind of mouthy, and he's like, I'm here in the name of Flynn, you know, Shadow Flynn, to return you and, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then he says, long live the king. And Leila is really shaken by the king part. And I know we have a sovereign, so I assume a king is, like, separate. Are we hinting at something, like, scarier happening here? I don't know. But Hylas saves the day. She doesn't really need saving from the mouthy soldier. But Hylas shows up and shoves him over the railing, and he dies. And Hylas is like, yeah, I can kill, and then he vomits immediately. Very convenient. Right after that, Tobias shows up, and he's like, they're all dead. We got them all. I know for sure we got them all, even though seconds ago it was mass chaos in here. And don't worry, all the patrons are fine, because they all left when they saw the soldiers coming. So, like, nobody saw us, except for the courtesans who already knew. So everything is actually fine.
Super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
And then Delphi, I'm sure, will just deal with the aftermath, because that was kind of her job anyway, wasn't it? Leila was always killing people, and Delphi was always disposing of the bodies. So I'm sure Delphi will completely handle it. The fact that a bunch of soldiers came in here, and all of the patrons saw them do it, and then no soldiers came out, handled. I'm sure Delphi will just, don't even worry about it. Delphi's happy to do it, by the way. She's like, get out of here, I will handle it, off you go. Good to know that that hasn't changed. I would just hate for Delphi to have enough characterization to go, hey, I really wish that you would stop killing people and leaving me with your mess. It's really fucking rude that that's our relationship. But no, Delphi's happy to do it. And they teleport away to the woods, and it is now Tobias's chapter. And I'll probably read that too, because I try to read at least 2 chapters at a time. All right, let's get on to Tobias. They've also left the horses behind, so Jenna no longer has to deal with the fact that she doesn't know jack about horses. They are now on foot, which seems worse to me, but whatever. I guess Enzo got to bring his horse. That's random. Everybody else seems to be walking. Tobias is worried about leaving his sister behind when he wasn't worried about dragging her along through the woods, making her ride horses all day and sleep on the ground. But now he feels bad that he left her behind in a place with soft beds and lots of people to care about her. Oh, never mind. Apparently it said they did bring some horses because Leila's riding their black stallion. So some people are walking, some people are on horses. I don't even know. Leila's depressed again, though. Oh no. Tobias is like, is it going to be a problem that Delphi is sharing a room with my sister Naomi? The implication is heavily that he thinks that Delphi's gonna like rape his sister. What? And then they just play it off as a joke? What is happening? What? Jenna, what was that? Oh, Delphi likes girls, so my sister's not safe in a room with her. Oh, ha 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 ha. Would you feel that way if she liked boys? What? But don't worry, joking about his sister being assaulted by her sister, that brought Leila into a better mood, actually. Yeah, more indication that Naomi and Raph are going to end up together. Raph comes over to Tobias and he's all like, hey, did Leila hate you when you first met? And if so, how did you get her to like you? Because Naomi just is mean to Raph for no real reason. She just is mean to him. But Papa Tobias gets to help out Raphael with his love life. He doesn't know that it's his sister, of course. But he's like, oh, well, when you see this girl again, wink, wink, ask her questions about herself. Bitches love it when you ask them questions about themselves. I mean, that is kind of the bare minimum, but okay. Tobias does also take a moment to make fun of Raphael because why is Raphael A, here, and B, such a punching bag? I don't understand. Everyone's just decided. Raphael is honestly the new Flynn. Because that was basically Flynn's role. He was a little bit smarmier than Raph, but otherwise he was just a guy who was kind of snarky and everybody decided that they were going to be mean to for no reason. Tobias's mom did come along with them because she wants to see him off at the border, and maybe we're finally going to get a conversation between Tobias and his mother. This felt like a whole arc that we could have been doing, but I think we're just going to get it tied up in a bow with a conversation. Okay, this is weird. I assumed that Naomi didn't like Leila because Leila turned her precious baby son into a violent, murderous killer. But now she's like, I'm only here to see you off, son. I'm not here to see off that woman that you're dating. What would she know of a mother's love? So apparently she hates Leila because Leila didn't have a mom? Gonna guess that she's using that as like a mask because she's actually mad about the real reason, but we're gonna find out. Okay, mom is coming up with other reasons, such as the fact that Leila is incredibly violent and has killed people in front of them. Of course, Tobias is being perfect boyfriend and he's like, mother, you will not disrespect my fiance in front of me. And I'm like, no. She's making good points. She's not being a weird boy mom who's like, no one will ever love my baby boy like I do. She's like, this woman is a problem. She murders people violently in front of me. She turned my baby boy into a killing machine. She's the reason that we're out here in the first place, going to war.
No. He's got a point.
So they have a back and forth fight about it. Tobias is like, I did all of this for you. The reason I'm even with Leila is because I went into the tournament for you, blah, blah, blah. And he storms off. I assume we're supposed to side with Tobias. I would like to think that we're not really supposed to side with anybody, that we're supposed to see the logic in both of their sides, but I do happen to know that Jenna likes to see things in a fairly black and white way. So I think we're supposed to be like, Tobias is right and Naomi is unreasonable. Or not Naomi. Naomi's the sister. Naomi's such a mom name. His mom's name is Yuka or something like that. Luckily, by the way, their entire way to Tragolia, there's plenty of woods to keep them concealed. They don't have to travel down a road or anything. There's just conveniently, easily traversable woods that horses can move through without any problem. But it gets dark and suddenly there's a light up ahead and Enzo is excited about it. Unclear whether he thinks it's a friend or whether he wants to go murder whoever it is. If Tobias only has one brain cell, Enzo, none whatsoever. Enzo's like running towards whatever light they saw. They go hurtling out of the woods at top speed, and when they come out of the trees, there's just water. A seaside or a lakeside or something like that. Presumably it's very large, so I don't know how they didn't hear the waves, but Maybe Enzo was just yelling too much. But yeah, Enzo says, here we are. So luckily the woods goes right up to the lake. So there was never any danger of them being spotted. But anyway, I'll see for the next chapter when I get to it. And we're back. It is ferret time. The ferrets are out, which means that I get to be attacked by Tandy. It's Tandy! And I have the Savior's Army. So we are finally doing some journeying in this journey book. We are over halfway through. Slightly further than they've been before. Everywhere they go, it's like within a day's trek of the forest camp. But we're with Leila. We're in Leila's POV. It is a really big lake. Not the sea. It's Lake Toby. Seems like it might be based on one of the Great Lakes, which I'm familiar with because I live in Wisconsin.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi.
Enzo's like, we need to take a ship across. We have to cross the lake to get to Trigolia. We can't go around, presumably, because it's a very, very big lake. And Leila's like, we can't take a ship. That's, like, super dangerous. There are guards at all of the borders, so there will be guards at the ports. But don't worry, Enzo's like, this border is good because smugglers are here. So, I don't know. I guess we can pretend to be smugglers. They're going to Smuggler's Cove. Ooh, we got a piratey destination. So Raph says Smuggler's Cove is one of the inlets mules and slavers use to transport contraband between realms. I really hope we find out what contraband is.
Get used to disappointment.
Also, Leila is like, slavers! And I'm like, you're horrified by the concept of slaves? Like, we do find out eventually that her sisters were paid, but also, her sisters are not there by choice. At least one of them, if not all of them, were just like snatched from their lives and never allowed to go back. So I think the concept of slaves should not actually be that weird to her. For some reason, even Thesson, ruled by her father, she's like, Thesson would never be so cruel as to have slavery. We draw the line at slavery. Leila's getting uppity about the weirdest stuff. They're talking about their plan. Tobias is going to pose as a smuggler, and everybody else is going to be playing the part of slaves because the slaves are kept down in the hold, and therefore Leila will not glow. We don't solve the problem of if anybody pulls her hood off while she's standing on the dock because she's a slave and therefore has no bodily autonomy, but that probably won't happen. But anyway, Leila is upset because she doesn't want to play the part of a slave, and she's like, what, women can't be smugglers? And he's like, no. And she's like, their country's so sexist. And I'm like, bitch, your country is sexist, and stupidly so. Why do you have a patriarch when you should be a matriarchal society? Your society is led by a god queen every time, and yet you have a patriarchal society and you don't even realize it. I hope she realizes that. When she goes to this place, I hope she realizes it.
Get used to disappointment.
Tobias is like, how am I supposed to play the smuggler because I am a wanted man? And Enzo's like, have they seen your face? And I'm like, presumably, yes. Apparently, everywhere we go, everyone saw I wanted to call them the Hunger Games. They saw the games. They watched. Everywhere we go so far, people are like, would recognize the artist on sight. So yes. So I think we're leaving the horses behind at last. We just brought them a little bit further before we ditch them. We're in Leila's point of view, so we don't get to see Tobias's goodbye with his mother, which I think is a disappointment, unless we get to see it in a memory in a following chapter. But we know that he argued with his mom, so he goes to say goodbye to his mom, and it's really short, and red aura is coming off of Tobias because he's upsetty spaghetti, and then mom just, like, rides away with all of the horses. It's a good thing all the horses get along perfectly, because she's got some distance to travel while riding one horse and leading several others. Here's the thing about horses. They don't super love to be forced to be really close to each other. Horses love to be close to each other when they choose it, but you have to have the right combo of horses to lead them in such close proximity to each other for extended periods of time. Otherwise, they're going to get annoyed with each other. They're going to start biting each other. They're going to start kicking at each other, and then you've got a problem. So now that they're ready to go, they tie up everybody who's pretending to be a slave, and Tobias leads them out into the open, and they meet two men. Tobias slinked his hand down to the hilt of his sword. We love the word slink. I don't know where Jenna picked up this word, but she loves it.
Slinky, it's slinky. For fun, it's a wonderful toy.
Raphael, I guess, is also playing the part of a slaver, and he knows like a code phrase, I guess. Tobias lowers his hood, and oh, thank God, they aren't recognized, which we all knew was gonna be how it went. Of course, the men are being creepy and, gazing lecherously at Leila, which she's upset about. But they get past the two men, and that was actually super easy, barely an inconvenience. This is a saltwater lake? That's interesting. I mean, they exist, right? I'm revealing my stupidity, but I'm more familiar with freshwater lakes. But it says cold, salty air blasted her face when she reached the deck. But Leila gets put down in the filthy, disgusting hold with the few slaves that are here, because apparently the last slave ship has already left, and this is just like more transporting of goods. But luckily, they got on board without any issues. So once they're down in the hold, Enzo literally chews the ropes off of him, because they were bound with ropes, and he just chews through them like a squirrel, like a rat, like, okay. He doesn't, use his mouth to work the knots free. He just bites the rope. I think Enzo and Hylas might be ending up together, though, because he just pulled Hylas towards him, and Hylas ran into his masculine chest, and I don't remember if Enzo is gay, but I do remember that Hylas is, so he chews everybody's ropes off. This is going to be bad for his teeth. Maybe Kovarians have really strong teeth. So they suspect the journey will take 2 or 3 days, in which time they do not anticipate the slaves being fed, and Leila is very freaked out by this, which is fair. She's a teeny tiny little woman, like itty bitty. She's not going to handle not being fed very well. What will she do without the endless supply of vegetables that they had previously? Oh yeah, Hylas is into Enzo. She catches him staring at Enzo's giant muscularness. For some reason, in the middle of a slave hold, with other people watching, Leila decides to wingman Hylas. So she is like, let me introduce you to, and she's like trying to make Enzo look even more masculine with her tiny, dainty feminineness as comparison. I'm like, what are we doing? You are in the hold of a slave vessel, and this is the time you're gonna wingman. But I guess, straight girlies cannot resist getting two men together. Like, it's what they live for. So how on earth was she, once she figured out that there was boy love as a possibility, she was like, I need it. She would be one of those people slathering over the heated rivalry or whatever that show is. To be clear, I haven't watched that show, not because I am opposed to gay love. I just don't like romance all that much. I don't watch that much romance stuff. So Leila leaves the two boys to get to know each other, feeling accomplished in her facilitating of their gay love. But she goes over to the water barrel and pretends to drink as she listens to some smugglers talking. And they're talking about how Tragolia is an ally of Thesson, with some very basic political stuff, like, oh, if Brontes doesn't like Tragolia, then the trade routes are cut off, so that's why they have to keep their alliance going. And Brontes is upsetty spaghetti, so Leila's like, great, so Tragolia might not be our safe haven after all. And that's the end of the chapter, and these chapters are definitely much longer than Light Lurk-esque chapters, so I am going to stop now for today, but I'll catch you up when I get to the next one. And we're back. More of this. I recently put out a supercut of the Savior's Champion, which is all of my Savior's Champion videos. Oh my god, my hair looks so dorky right now. Don't look at me. And in doing so, I'm reminded a lot of the Savior's Champion. It's been a long time since I went back and looked at those videos because they're really old and really crusty. But, if you just listen to it and you don't look at me, you'll be fine, I think. I forgot that I used to put music under all my videos. Cringe. I didn't know any better. It was a thing for a while. Everybody was doing it. Anyway, yeah, but one thing it did remind me of is Flynn. Even in that book, he was, annoying at worst. But, he was always trying to be Tobias's friend. I think he saved Tobias at one point, or Tobias saved him. One of them saved the other one. And then Tobias was, mad that Flynn wanted to be friends after that. The dismissiveness level of Tobias towards Flynn. And Flynn kept trying to be his friend. Jenna, I have realized, hates a redemption arc, but loves a revenge arc. She doesn't want the enemies to ever get a chance to become fully human and maybe find out that the good guys were a little bit wrong about them. Oh no, she doesn't want her bad guys to learn lessons or anything like that. She wants the good guys to get their revenge. And so I think that's one of the reasons that Flynn has been turned up to 1,000 in this book, and quite frankly just transformed into a completely different person, is because it would have been way cooler to be like, oh, we've met Flynn and he's got a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he was lied to the entire tournament, and he feels like Leila and Tobias, who he thought were his friends, have turned on him and have not communicated with him. They just disappeared one day and just left him holding the bag. And like, there would have been so much interesting stuff to explore with Flynn. But instead, he's just fully turned into a whole other person, a complete psychopath, and then later we can feel good, quote-unquote, about getting our revenge against him. That's also probably why we haven't seen Cosima yet, and Leila has barely thought about her, because there's absolutely no chance of redemption ever for her. She's done bad things against the main character, and therefore she is irredeemable, and we are supposed to revel in our revenge against her, versus ever giving her an opportunity to be a well-rounded human being. And I am so mad about it. Like, I understand that not every single villain needs to be a redeemable villain or a human character. And I'm fine with fucking Brontes being that. Brontes, giant asshole, let him be the bad guy who just doesn't have anything going on except evil, all right? Fine with that. But does every single character that Jenna has decided the main characters don't like, does every single one of them have to have that same level of irredeemability? Even in Adventurer Mage, I have the Briard brothers, who are these 3 rich brothers, and already 2 of them, you get to see some of their points of view in the first book, and understand a little bit where they're coming from, even if they're making bad choices and are mean people. And then in this one, you get to hang out with one of them, won't tell you which, and another one you get a little bit more with, and you see that while he's not really a very nice man, he's also just not straight up evil. They have reasons for behaving the way that they do, and it's just like, I am physically incapable of writing a character who has like nothing else going on for that in their head. Like, I fully understand Thomas Briard, who is the eldest and arguably the most evil of the Briard brothers. But like, I can picture a world, it's probably not going to happen, but I could picture a world in which we potentially could redeem him. I doubt I'm going to do that, but like, the fact that it is possible to me says that he's got more depth, you know, and maybe it's not necessarily appearing on the page as much because the book's not about him, but I'm never going to turn him into a cackling, finger-tenting villain, you know? I'm just trying to think about all of my villains, and even like in Boots, where the villain is pretty evil, you still you understand. You kind of get it. Like, yeah, he's still a bad person and he does bad things, but there's even a universe in which he could be redeemed, I'm pretty sure. No, never ever in these books. All right, that was a lot of jabbering for me. I felt like I had something more I wanted to say about Leila, but I can't remember what it is. So we're just gonna dive in. We're back with Tobias, who's pretending to be a slave master. Oh, also going back through the first book a little bit has reminded me how ridiculously sexist their society is. So Leila being stunned that another society is sexist is just bonkers, because their society is sexist. She just somehow hasn't noticed. I think we're supposed to believe that sexism doesn't exist in Thesson because sex work is respected. Like, one of these guys is being dismissive about sex workers, and Tobias is like bristling. He's so mad because sex work is respected in Thesson, except for in the first books, it's not. The way that they talk about it is incredibly disrespectful. The way that they talk about it, it is not treated as a respected job, but Tobias is acting like it is. Like, what Tobias feels about it is not what we have actually seen on the page, except for maybe in that brothel in that one city where Tobias and friends imposed all of their staff are going to be staying now. Tobias even takes a moment, it's like he knew what I was talking about. He takes a moment to think about how much he hates Flynn and wishes he was still punching Flynn. So Raph is all pretending to be a slaver along with Tobias, and they're talking about The last time that Raph was surrounded by water, it was in the arena. And I'm like, I get that we want to have, like, PTSD about having been in the not Hunger Games. I get it. But, like, that of all things, like, he's jumpy about being on board a ship because he almost got eaten by an eel one time. Pretty different scenarios. I'm not saying he couldn't perhaps be nervous, but he's not in the water. He's not swimming. I think he'd be nervous about swimming. An odd segue. They want to talk about the tournament. Also, Tobias we've been in his mind a lot, and he's had basically no PTSD about the tournament, which is an interesting choice. Like, he's not really rattled by it at all. He's way too focused on Leila and how she's doing at all times. So there's some sort of shenanigans going on the deck. You know, let me just ask you. All right, the unscrupulous sailor types are up to some entertainment for the night, and it doesn't involve having sex with women or each other. What sort of thing do you think that Jenna would come up with for them to be doing? Rowdy sailor types. I'll let you think about it for a second and put your comments down below. Okay. Because when I tell you it, you're going to be like, oh, of course. This is the most Jenna thing ever. What does Jenna say that rowdy sailor types are up to? So, they got two guys in a ring. Like, and I'm like, okay, bare knuckle boxing, whatever. No, this is Jenna. The competition is to punch each other in the balls, and whoever collapses first loses. Is that not the most Jenna thing you've ever read in your life? We're having a bonding moment between Tobias and Raphael, and I don't care because I don't care about Raphael. Because listening back, again, through the first book, Raphael was one of the guys who didn't, like, he showed up a couple of times and Tobias saved him, but he didn't get a personality. Flynn got a personality, which is why I expected him to matter more in future books as a potential ally. Who the fuck is Raph? He never did anything interesting in book 1, so why is he an ally in book 2? Hi, Candy. By the way, if you hear lots of noises, it's Furrets. But apparently Raphael had a brother, and that brother is dead. Okay.
Yes, very sad. Anyway.
We have to take a moment to praise the main character, as per usual. Now they've switched topics to talking about Tobias's mom, and Tobias says, my mom doesn't like Leila, and Raphael says, really? Why? Leila's intelligent, she's resourceful, she's lovely when she's not in a mood. Yeah, okay, take a minute. We just need to tell everybody how much we like Leila. She's great. Oh, I remember what I was going to ask about Leila. If she leaves Thesson, does Thesson start to die? Because she's going into a whole other realm, and she's on a ship where she's not touching the earth. We have not seen her not even one time do her ritual where she lays on the soil with her tits out. So I'm starting to think we have retconned that as unnecessary. She's never even thought about it, though. I would love if we could just have a moment where she goes, I didn't need to do that. That was just a thing I did to throw my father off the scent. I didn't actually need to go lay on the soil with my bare breasts touching the earth. I just did that to fuck with my dad. But, like, we just don't see her doing any, like, replenishment towards the realm. How long can the realm go without being replenished? Can Leila be anywhere in the world and still keep the realm alive? Are we going to... Nobody's asking about this. Nobody's thought to ask. Everybody seems to keep forgetting that she is not only their queen, she's also their god. And she has a job as their god. This is so Jenna. This is such a Jenna thing. They couldn't end up on a regular, normal, like, smuggling ship. They're on a ship called the Oyster's Tits. Our vessel of sin and debauchery, says the sailor who's talking to them right now. For some reason, the sailors are like, we need to make friends with Tobias and Raphael, so come and presumably do drugs with us. We're, like, getting to know the crew, and I don't know why, because I don't think these are going to be, like, important characters. Do we need to know that the captain is named Kareem, and their healer is named Dutch? I know Jenna wants to get some of this travel in this world, but, like, you don't need to, like, go deep in every single place that they visit. And I feel like this ship is one of those places where we could just use it as a mode of transportation and get to the next shore. We don't need to find out about the crew and what their names are, and that they play this game that involves punching each other in the dicks. Figuring out what to leave out of your travel story is probably about as important as figuring out what to leave in. I feel like this moment is just Jenna who wanted to use all of her dirty language in the way that, like, a teenage boy, like a 13-year-old boy gets excited about getting to use dirty language. Because all these men, you know, have filthy mouths, and they're all just nonstop talking about dicks. And it's just so juvenile, and it feels like it's just Jenna really wanted to roll around and revel in the fact that she likes that juvenile way of talking. I'm not having a good time though. But of course the men start to be lecherous toward Leila, which is making Tobias just filled with seething rage. I like it when anyone in the relationship gets defensive of the other person in the relationship. All right, I don't mind that trope, but I've been seeing it so much that it's starting to lose its meaning for me. And I'm just like, oh my God, we're doing this again. We keep just having to come up with reasons for some character to be pissed off on behalf of their significant other. Also, I was right. They have been given drugs, but Tobias and Raph haven't realized that they've been given drugs. So they've just been like munching on these leaves. And the crew are like, man, you've got a really high tolerance. So now we get the Tobias and Raph drug trip sequence.
Also, Unresolved Textual Tension talked about this sequence and about how Tobias thought that the leaves were like food. They were his rations. But that was such a single brain cell Tobias move that it didn't even faze me. And I'm like, of course this dumbass thinks that it's food and hasn't figured out that it's drugs. This is on brand for Tobias. He is dumb as a box of rocks. I'm sorry, he's a brick. Your boyfriend is pretty but stupid, Leila. That's just what we're dealing with here.
So Raphael pulls Tobias aside finally and is like, you have been taking a lot of drugs. What are we doing? Jadzia's here. Let's have some wholesomeness with Jadzia. Jadzia's full name is Jadzia Dax, a precious angel baby who never hurt anyone ever except for the one time she bit her father on the butt. That's her full name? Don't you forget it, right? Yes, she's a sweetie pie. Whoa, we're war dancing. She will do a war dance, though. Oh my goodness, there's flips, there's twirls. Y'all, I wish I could show you. The second I get my phone out, she will stop. So you're just gonna have to take my word for it. I think that Jadzia is acting out the Tobias drug scene. Is that what Tobias is gonna be doing later? With the flippy flippies and the flailies? Oh, we're upside down. We're right side up. Nobody, by the way, is getting seasick. Like, one of the things that they say that this drug that Tobias has just had a bunch of is good for in small doses is seasickness. But, like, Tobias has been fine, Raph has been fine, everybody down in the hold has been fine, nobody's seasick. Apparently, though, the drugs are kind of making Tobias more chill. They're making Raph, freak out, and Tobias seems to be getting more chill. So, more chill, but also more aggressive, because he just was threatening, but, in a chill way. He was threatening Raph. Hi, who's this? Oh, it's Candy. Hi, Candy. Or is this Chai Chai? I feel like, are you Chai Chai or you Candy? It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. All the ferrets are doing their spring shed, and so they're all changing color, except for Moraine, who stays white always. But the rest of them turn to a different shade of brown twice a year, which is fun for identifying which one is which. But Tobias and Raph go back to hang out with the smugglers and talk shit about Brontes. In a weird turn of events, Tobias is fitting right in now that he's high. Unfortunately, Raphael's trip is making him really paranoid and tense. But Tobias is he's actually thriving. Maybe he should get high more often. Now the sailors are just dancing. They're having a dance party on the deck. And I'm like, okay, that might as well happen. I guess these people have nothing better to do. They're really bored sailing across this lake. They already played the dick punching game. They've already gotten high. Dancing is the next logical step. Raphael devolves into a blubbering mess about how he's in love, but the girl he loves doesn't notice him, and Tobias is, comforting him. This is a very much every scene of two characters who are drunk or high that you've ever witnessed. This scene is the most Jenna scene, though. This is the most Jenna scene that I have read in this entire book. It is purely Jenna front to back. Just goofy weirdness with a bunch of men being horny and awful, but at the same time, comradely, they're still there for each other because they're all high. Tobias is trying to, gas Raph up, and he's making him say a mantra, and he says, "You radiate the power of 1,000 cocks." Say it with me. "I radiate the power of 1,000 cocks," Raphael choked out. This is the most Jenna thing ever, possibly, in the universe. Oh, thank God this scene is almost over. What a mess. I hated reading this. This may be the most Jenna thing ever, but it's the most anti-Julian thing ever. But one of the sailors is like, I'm gonna go down in the hold and fuck some of the slaves. And Tobias is like, Leila's down there. He's going to have sex with my fiancé. So he's got to go down there and defend her. Tobias runs down to try and save Leila. He trips down the stairs. He lands on the guy who was going to go assault Leila and knocks him unconscious. And then Tobias also passes out. And that's the end of the chapter. And it looks like we time skip, because then it says 2 days locked in a damp cell from Leila's point of view. So I feel like I just got high for a very short amount of time. What was that chapter? You could pull that entire chapter out of this book and not, I don't think, change anything else. What the fuck, Jenna? I mean, I guess I'm glad that you're getting to write what you want to write, Jenna, because I could, like, that is the most Jenna thing ever, as I've said a million times. But I need to go do anything else and cleanse my brain. See you for the next chapter. So we're on to Leila's chapter. She's been down there for 2 days. The savior of their entire realm, their god, has been in a filthy, stinky hold, fending off rapists for 2 days. What is this doing for the story, like, ultimately? What is it doing to have her be the one who has to pretend to be a slave, and Tobias has to go pretend to be a smuggler? Does she need to be humbled? Like, she's already pretty quote-unquote humble. She's almost never throwing her weight around as the God Queen. Tobias is doing all of that for her. Is it just so that Tobias can be protective of her again, to put her in a weak position where he has to be protective of her? Like, what is the point? And I can specifically ask this of Jenna because she is such a rigid plotter, and so she should know of her book, what is the point? Why did she choose this? If you're such a plotter, Jenna, why?
By the way, if you're wondering if we get to see any of Leila being down in that hold for 2 days, dealing with hunger, dealing with discomfort, perhaps speaking to the other slaves and getting to know them and getting to know their plights and maybe coming to feel sorry for them. Heck, maybe even making her own little scheme to, like, help them get free. Like, maybe she unties all their ropes or something like that. Like, maybe she does something, or maybe she's like, hey, if you can get back to Thesson, I will protect you. No, none of that. She tries to hook up the 2 gay guys, and then we completely ignore everything else that happens to her, and now we're getting off the ship. So, like, this felt so pointless, and so obvious that the other slaves down there are nothing more than just props who might as well not even be humans. Because Leila just spent 2 days in a dank hold. The end.
So they get off in a port city. It's way more crowded and noisy than she expected. Also, she's like trying to keep her head down so she doesn't glow in the sunlight. While I appreciate that this is an issue for her, this glowing thing is an issue. Jenna's not trying to pretend that it's not, that she can just turn it off, whatever. It also is just kind of annoying to the reader because you spend a lot of time wondering, like, how is she concealing it so well? Is nobody like, hey, slave, and pulls her hood off, you know, like, why are you hiding your face? Nobody's going to want to buy you if you're all, like, hidden away, you know, like, there's so many opportunities for her to get exposed just because she glows in the sunlight. We're simultaneously not worried enough about it and too worried about it for my taste. Leila says, oh God, because she sees soldiers in the crowd, and that just makes me want to bring up again, she is a demigod. What is her relationship to their God? The God over everything. The Christian God. I don't know who he is or what he does because nobody ever talks about him. The only one that they talk about is the Savior. They only talk about God when they're saying things like this. Oh God, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But Jenna has said, mostly outside of the books, that there is a God over all of the realms, I guess. But who is he? How is he worshipped? How is he thought of? That's none of our fucking business. Is God somehow involved? Like when she decides to have a baby with someone. Is that baby also partially genetic? God? Are there 3 people involved in that act when the Savior gets pregnant? Like, how? Julian, you're asking too much from a book that's one of the main characters is a demigod to understand how their other god works. That's ridiculous, Julian. But yeah, it turns out the port is being tightly controlled. Thesson, the sovereign, has gotten to Trigolia first, so all of his soldiers are checking everybody who comes ashore. Leila immediately assumes that there must be a mole, that somebody must be giving Bronte's information. Is it going to be Tobias's mom? I'm trying to think of who in their group, or is it just going to turn out to be one of the evil people? Like, does Cosima have some way to keep an eye on Leila? And so, like, Cosima's responsible for this somehow. Well, now she's standing on her toes, craning her neck to peer past the throng. Girlie, your hood's gonna come off. Like, if you're looking around trying to see, because she's a shorty, she's gonna be glowing. Like, Make up your mind whether you're ducking low so nobody sees you glow in the sunlight or you're like standing on tiptoe looking around. Here's some anachronistic sounding language. It was reckless and stupid, but tempting the fates had become her norm. That just doesn't quite fit in. Had become her norm. It sounds very modern. Leila comes up with a scheme. She is like, give me a dagger, I'm going to cut myself free, which nobody notices. Because she cuts her ankles free, so she's squatting down in the middle of a crowded harbor, cutting her ankles free, but nobody notices this. And then I think she's going to go teleport behind a guard and stab them, which is what she could do to her father, but she will not. So she teleports into an alley behind this soldier, which is a conveniently extremely dark alley on this sunny day. I'm noticing that whenever they need shadows in these kind of books, these shadows are deep and impenetrable. Never just like normal shade that would be caused by like the buildings. It's like nighttime shadows whenever they need to like hide. So she's tempting him into the shadows so she can kill him. So she does her thing. She kills the guard. No remorse or thought. She just murders him very well and easily. And then they all sneak into the alley. Leila is immediately extremely judgy of this place. It's dirty, it's gross, the sky seems darker, people pour out their chamber pots onto the street. She's like, ew, this place is gross. So interesting that the first place that they go outside of Thesson is like the icky place. Everybody's wearing gray. Like, why would they wear colorful clothing? Here's another word. I don't know. It's probably correct, but it just drew me out. Enzo says he's taking them somewhere safe, and she thinks safe was an anomaly in these conditions. I don't have time to research how long we've used the word anomaly, but it just doesn't seem like a very fantasy word. Maybe that's just me, though. Other people probably don't care. So they get to this old burned out building where I guess Enzo wants to hide them. I forgot that she wasn't given food for the 3 days that she was in the hold. And now they're just munching on some apples that they brought. And I'm like, what? Honestly, you could have left out the detail about them not getting food because it doesn't matter. Like her being weakened from hunger didn't stop her from killing that guard. She's just a little extra hungry. I don't know why we did it then. Just like let them feed the slaves some gruel or something. Enzo goes to get them real food besides the apples that they have. And the rest of the boys are looking to Leila like, oh, queen, our leader, what should we do? And she says, do whatever you want. I don't know. I'm so tired. I'm glad she's here for leadership. What is it with all of the girlies that I read in these books being the worst leaders? But then we remember that Leila can literally go anywhere. So she's like, I need to go teleport back and check on my friends back at the brothel. So she could go get them food. What? Enzo doesn't need to endanger himself. She could just teleport somewhere back in Thesson, grab some snackums and bring them back here.
As was pointed out by Unresolved Textual Tension, because Leila can teleport to any place that she's already been, every time they make progress, it's really just checkpoints. They don't need to stay in this burned out building. They just need to go there. She needs to quick memorize what it looks like so she can picture it in her head, and then they can go back and sleep on cushy beds in any of the other places that they've been. Or they can go back to the Creos Woods if they want to. All she has to do is get a bit further than the last time, set a checkpoint by memorizing the location, and then teleport back somewhere where she can have a cushy bed. They won't do that because that would be really boring to read about, but that is a problem. Teleportation, I have so much trouble with teleportation as an ability that characters could have. Authors, I don't think about how OP teleportation is when they give it to their character. They're like, oh, teleportation, that's a cool superpower. It is overpowered as fuck. So you have to nerf it with some really good rules about teleportation, like maybe they can't go far, maybe she can't take a lot of people with her, etc., etc. It is still so overpowered. And not enough authors are thinking about that, I feel like, when they give their characters teleportation.
But as she goes to teleport, oh no, bad guys attack because I guess her and her friends didn't carefully check the mill. Like they didn't scout it out or something. But there's a bunch of people in black leather who are, I guess, hiding out in this burned out mill and are grabbing her and her friends. So apparently these are the guys from the ship who are also ninjas and got to shore faster than them somehow, got past the blockade faster than them somehow, and got to this mill before they did to hide in the shadows and wait in ambush. But we recognize that these are the smugglers. I want to know, like, okay, sure, I will accept that these guys actually bounty hunters, skilled bounty hunters that did all of that stuff, that got through the pier without being investigated because they're bounty hunting. And they came, for some reason, straight to this mill because they knew that that's where they were going to go. Because maybe Leila has a mole in their company, or maybe Tobias drunkenly told them, or when he was high, or whatever. I'll believe all of that. Okay, sure. Disbelief suspended. How did they end up? How did Tobias and company randomly happen to end up on the ship with the bounty hunters? Is the mole in their ranks like that good? Like contacting these bounty hunters ahead of time somehow? There's no email in Thesson. How are they getting messages out so fast? To be like, hey, the Savior is going to be traveling to Tragolia, posing as a slave, but you shouldn't kill her on your ship when you have her all tied up and everything. Don't do that. Wait until they get to Tragolia. Wait until they get to a burned out mill, then attack them. There's a lot of moving pieces that I'm not sure were considered.
Yeah, no, 100% the moving pieces were not considered. I would bet great stacks of cash that in Jenna's outline, it just said, the team is attacked in the mill by the smugglers. And that's it. And she's like, okay, this is the part of the story where the team is attacked in the mill by the smugglers. Logistics, we don't care about the logistics because my outline says this is the time when they were attacked in the mill by the smugglers. I'm going to spoil right away that there doesn't appear to be a mole within their ranks. They don't appear to have a traitor, at least one that we cover in this book. Maybe that's going to come up in the next book. I don't know. But in this book, we kind of forget about that train of thought entirely. As somebody who's watching these scenes and seeing this play out, I would be convinced at this point that it is definitely Enzo. Enzo is the newest member of their group. He showed up right before they headed off for Tragolia. Enzo is the one who suggests, I think, that they pretend to be slaves and slave masters. Enzo is the one who's conveniently gone into town to get supplies while the team is attacked. Enzo would 100% be the most suspicious party, and no one even thinks of that. And it's driving me insane.
Leila does realize that she should be blessing her friends, like renewing that blessing of teleportation way more often, because she's like, man, if Tobias could teleport right now, that would be super handy, but he can't. Okay, so these are not assassins for her dad. These are outlanders. We've heard about them a little bit. Maybe we get to find out more about witches, because Mal is the best witch hunter this side of the Thalassic Sea, one of the men says. So maybe we can finally find out more about what witches are and how they differ from demigods.
Get used to disappointment.
He's clearly intending to sell her because he says he's going to be rich, but he also says he's not taking her back to her dad. Even more questions now, because if he wasn't sent by the Sovereign, all of my previous questions from before about the ship, about this meetup, about all of it, so many questions. Was it just sheer luck that they got onto the wrong ship? Or was this orchestrated the whole time? Why didn't these people just sail them somewhere closer to the Outlands since they had them already on their ship?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
They're finding out a little bit more about how witches might work, because this guy's like, people who have magic have like a body part that's magical. So is it your tongue or your heart? And Leila's like, it's all of me. You can't just cut off a piece. He shouldn't be doing this, I don't feel. Because Mal, like, yes, she's the savior, but Mal, the witch hunter, he's not a worshiper of the savior. He's not a follower of the savior. He's not from Thesson. He's from the Outlands. But in his dialogue, he still capitalizes her pronouns. And I feel like he should not do that as like a non-believer. She's not his god. But they threaten Tobias' life, so Leila's like, I have to say something. So she claims that her skin is her magical organ. She's not shocked to find out that people have magic organs. But just as they hold her arms out and they're starting to slice her skin off, this is going to take a while, Hylas decides to do something, and he bites his captor, which is just distracting enough to create the chaos that they need to fight their way out of this, probably. This time, even though she is being held, she can teleport. So I don't understand what the rules of her teleportation are. Because people, they have her by the wrists, and one of them has her by the hair. But Hylas has created enough of a distraction that she teleports out of their grasp and over to where the weapons are. And now she's doing the thing that she should do every fight, which is just be constantly teleporting. She's never still. She's just teleporting here and there and stabbing everybody that she encounters. Rather than people like shooting towards each other like they do in the Lightlark series, people barrel towards each other in this one. Well, we've got slinked again. I definitely needed to have slink or slinking or slinked on the bingo card. Raphael stabs Mal, the final smuggler, and he slinked pitifully to the floor, which is an odd movement for somebody who's dying. Like, what is that? How do you slink to the floor as you die? They finish off all the smugglers, and at that moment, Enzo comedically comes back carrying food and says a quippy one-liner, even though he definitely would have heard the fighting and probably come running, eager to be part of it himself, but whatever. The fight made no noise, whatever. Anyway, that's the end of that chapter. That was extremely silly and highly implausible, and I have so many logistical questions. Well, let me make sure that the next one is another chapter. Yes. And we're back. It is morning, and it is chilly out, so I am dressed very cozily for this next chapter. We are back with Tobias. A lot of weird, crazy, random happenstances are happening. Now they're at an inn, so I guess they left the burned-out mill. We keep time jumping, which is fine if you time jump, but sometimes Jenna doesn't really tell you how you got there. She'll, leave on the end of an action scene, the end of something really tense, and there is no winding down of that action. We just jump to something else. And I think sometimes we do need to wind down that action. That's not to say that every time you end after an active scene that you have to wind it down, but she never does. It's always, here's a thing that happened, here's a big plot point that happened, they're attacked, they're this, they're that, they're blah, the drama. And then next chapter, we've jumped away from it and we don't know how that resolved. What did they do with all the bodies of the guys? Did they just leave them in the mill? Did they have no questions about them? Were they no thoughts had empty about the whole thing? Cat, stop destroying my chair. Stop it. Stop. Put these things on the chair to try to keep her from clawing at it, and she still just wants to claw at the chair itself. Yeah, it's rude. I like this chair. I don't know how we got here. How did we get here, though? They were in a city where they were super worried about being found. Did they go back into the city from the mill? Did I miss a chapter somehow? Just went back to check because legitimately, how are they here? Why are they in an inn? Why were they planning to sleep in a burned out mill, but now they're fine to be in an inn? I really hope that this gets explained. I don't know why we didn't just find it out in real time.
Get used to disappointment.
But Tobias is mad because he's been trapped in a single room with everyone in his traveling party, and he's mad about it because he can't have sex with Leila. Also, we don't have explained why they've been sitting in this hotel room for days and days and days, to the point where Tobias is going stir crazy. But thank goodness, if you were worried that the mess that they left at the brothel is any problem, it's not. Leila's teleported back to check, and while Issa is upset about the situation, no guards have come to destroy the brothel or anything. Thank goodness that they don't have to worry about that.
It's just if I think something's gonna be cool, I'm gonna do it, Rules be damned. But you're the one making the rules. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if this is the correct use of the word flung. The door flung open. I think the door could be flung open by someone, but I think it'd be the door flew open. The door crashed open. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being way too nitpicky about that. So now after days at this inn, apparently, they're there's more soldiers coming. We need to head north. And my big question is, why didn't you head north before now? What was your plan? Why are you in an inn? How are you in an inn? So many questions.
So I need you to get all the way off my back about the logistics. Oh, okay. I'll do that.
Oh my God. I did not know that I needed to have character shrugs a single shoulder on this bingo card, but apparently I do, because Hylas shrugs a single shoulder. Let me be honest with you, I don't think I've ever shrugged just one shoulder in my life. I think I always shrug with both. But maybe I'm a freak of nature because both Jenna and Aster are having these characters shrug with one shoulder. How was I supposed to know that was going to be the overlap? So they're how does my dad know we're here? He's sending all of these soldiers here to Trigolia. He must know. Maybe one of Leila's servants is a spy. And she's absolutely not. None of them could ever be a spy. None of them would ever report to my dad. But then conveniently, Raphael is like, oh, that's right. I mentioned to Flynn that we were going to Trigolia, so that's the leak, is that I told Flynn. And I'm like, that's great. That does not explain how you happened to end up on a ship of smugglers who turned out to be bounty hunters from the Outlands, who knew exactly where you would be, and were somehow there ahead of you. Can you explain that to me, though? And also, can we talk about the Outlands? I thought we were going to find out more about the Outlands with these bounty hunters, but no, we just killed them. They're all dead and presumably just left to rot in the burned out mill. But luckily, there's a festival coming up, and they'll be able to disguise themselves in festival garb to get out onto the street. The festival is called the Festival of Pleasures. I have a hunch it could just be a regular harvest festival, called that. But this is Jenna Moresi, and everything has to be weirdly horny with this woman. Even before she was trying to make her book a quote-unquote romantasy, which is by nature weirdly horny. Back before that was popular. She's just... I mean, Leila lived in the horniest palace in the world. I didn't even put horny on the bingo card because, like, that... Horny is expected. Yes. Never mind. It's not a regular harvest festival. Mostly an excuse for blameless debauchery. And then Leila is dismissive, and she's like, ew. Masks and hedonism? How uncivilized. And I'm like, Leila, in the palace where you came from, you couldn't walk down the corridor without tripping over two people doing it. What are you talking about? Once again, we have Leila on the page, says she'd remain mostly silent through the discussion. Leila, once again, our queen, quiet while the men talk. I really desperately want to see some leadership from this woman. And, like, it would be one thing if it was clearly her arc. If her arc was that she is timid at first and gets better at leadership as the story goes on. But that doesn't seem to be her arc. I just don't think Jenna notices that she has made it where Leila's always just quiet and lets the men speak, and when Leila does try to assert her authority, Tobias always has to back her up before people will listen to her. That's just rude. So one of the masks is a goat, and that's the god of death and decay. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised that Jenna doesn't know anything about goats, but a goat is your god of death and decay? Not like a buzzard or some other carrion eater, a goat. A creature, if you've ever met one, that is so full of life and vitality, it seems almost unfair.
And I was like, well, maybe Jenna looked something up somewhere on the internet and it told her that a goat was like a symbol of decay in some culture and she's just using that. But not that I can find, aside from like in the Bible where the goat is associated with the devil for some reason. But since when does Jenna care about the Bible? In witchcraft, goats are creatures of ambition, abundance, resilience, cleverness, fertility, wildness, and sure-footed spiritual ascent. As far as I can find, in like most spiritual beliefs, they are not associated with death, even a little bit.
A goat would make a good symbol for hedonism, though, because they love to eat, they love to do it. So yep, in 3 days, I don't know why they made it in 3 days, but 3 days away is the party, and I think we have just time skipped to it. Tobias and Leila are also just very judgy people, I've noticed, and like maybe that's on purpose, but Tobias is very judgy of this festival and the things that go along with it. He's just like, this festival's stupid. And I'm like, okay, what festivals do you have, Tobias? What's your favorite festival? You probably don't have one because you're a giant stick in the mud. Leila should definitely give everybody, before they go out into this festival, she should definitely give them some teleportation power, but so far she has not, and she really needs to have learned from that experience in the mill to keep everybody juiced up with teleportation abilities.
Get used to disappointment.
So this festival is everything that you imagine a festival of debauchery would be. I don't need to describe it to you, you can already picture it. And it's a little bit disappointing that this is the best that Jenna could come up with for a festival. She's like, what should the festival be? Debauchery. It's a harvest festival, but it's all about debauchery. So Tobias is still just being a giant grumpy pants about the whole festival. He hates that he has to navigate around nudity and sex and drunkenness. Just... your trials are worse than most, Tobias. But it says, he had navigated far worse conditions. A little drunken tomfoolery was certainly manageable. I would love examples of what conditions he's thinking of in this moment. Is it something from the tournament? Is that what he's thinking of? Or is it something else? Like, what? I want the example, Tobias. You can't just tell me that you've managed worse things and then not tell me what you're thinking of as a worse thing. Of course, we have to take a break for some men to grab Leila, and Tobias has to rescue her, because that has to happen. If there's ever a chance for men to be lecherous near Leila, they will, and then Tobias will have to save her. Tobias punches a guy Just a drunken reveler who's asking to dance with Mother Moon, which is who Leila is dressed up as. Presumably this would be traditional for, like, women dressed as the moon to dance with people. But Tobias punches him, and Leila's like, oh yay, he saved me. Apparently this festival involves shops being looted. I'm like, what are we doing? This is the festival that you could come up with, huh, Jenna? One where shops are being looted? I kind of wish that they were doing something more with it, or she was doing something more with it. Something that she could be doing with this scene, with this big, crazy festival happening in the streets. Everybody's out, everybody's reveling, everybody's wearing masks, okay? But also their city is under siege by a whole bunch of soldiers from a king that's not even theirs. A supposed ally kingdom has sent a shit ton of soldiers to their shores, and these soldiers are going around bullying their people. One thing that they could be doing, these Trigolians, is with this festival, they could be finding excuses to fuck with the military. They could be finding excuses to beat up soldiers, or get soldiers stinking drunk so they're less useful, or get soldiers in trouble for things like, oh, that soldier, he looted that store. Like, what's he doing? Doesn't he know that we don't loot stores during this festival? Like, I would love to see if there was more to than just like, oh, debauchery festival, we're just a big dumb city full of drunken louts. This could be a festival and a protest at the same time, but I don't think Jenna has even thought of that. I don't think that necessarily crossed her mind. I think she's a little bit too focused on her main characters to remember that outside people have, like, personalities and wants and culture. She's playing at giving them culture, but really she's just giving them Fess and Culture 2.0. Because as much as Leila and Tobias might not admit it, this is the sort of shit that we saw in previous books. It would not surprise me even in the slightest if there is a debauchery festival in Thesson as well. I think Tobias is supposed to be having a PTSD freak out because the crowd is getting to him, the noise is getting to him, everything. But I'm like, this is exactly what it feels like to just be like very introverted and probably neurodivergent in a crowd like this. It's not even PTSD related necessarily. By the way, do not mind the noises. Jedzia is behind me trying to get into something. I feel like maybe Jenna based this off of the Topsy-Turvy Festival and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but like way, way hornier. But oh no, Leila and Hylas have gotten separated from the group. Also, if you're wondering if Jenna has gotten over her habit of having people move in sort of weird ways rather than just having them walk, a soldier waltzed into Tobias's line of sight. The soldier has been given the description of Tobias, which is like so unhelpful. Brown hair, bronze skin, with a woman. Now, presumably, it seems like we're implying that the people here in Trigolia are all very white, but we haven't really seen it. Like, I haven't actually, as far as I know, seen it on the page saying that everybody here is super pale. So, like, I don't know that Tobias's bronze skin would make him stand out all that much. But, like, a brown hair, bronze skin with a woman at this festival, that's gonna be like half the people. Yeah, see, I don't think this would be true. Because, you know, Tobias and Raph are giving this soldier some guff. And he says, no one has resisted the way the two of you are. And I'm like, I think that the people of Trigolia would be very resistant to these soldiers from another country, basically, invading them and taking over their streets and doing random searches of them. But of course, everything has to devolve into violence because these characters can never solve anything through talking. You've got people ambling. As I recall, Jenna loved the word amble. Hey, well, at least there's this. After Tobias breaks the guard's neck, a few people cheer and are like, fuck Thesson. And at least we've got that. I think we would have a lot more than that happening, but at least we've got that. But everyone's chill with the fact that Tobias killed someone. Tobias is like, maybe killing people is part of this festival as well. They decide to weekend at Bernie's this guard, and they prop this dead guard. They prop him up between them so they can pretend that they're just taking this drunken guard to safety. Hylas finds them, but unfortunately, he lost track of Leila. They lost the God Queen. These guys suck at their jobs. His body was overwrought, but his thoughts were singular and commanding. Can your body be overwrought? What does an overwrought body feel like? They should have given each other code names, and also Leila should have given everybody the power to teleport. But they should have given each other code names because Tobias can't yell for her because he'll be yelling the name of the savior, and apparently no one around here is named Leila. More ambling. And now that I've noticed it, we're going to see how many times people amble. Anybody who has a digital version of this book, please search amble and tell me how much it comes up. But Tobias immediately spots someone who at least looks like Leila getting hassled by a guard, of course. Apparently, did they drop their guy? They just leave his corpse somewhere. I don't even know why they bothered to grab him if he wasn't going to be a plot point. But Enzo shows up and just kills the guard that's hassling Leila. So Leila, once again, is saved by one of her party of dudes. Even though she's perfectly capable of saving herself, it just doesn't, because it's more fun to have the men do it, I guess. This is such a sausage fest, this book, that's supposed to be about a badass woman leader. We got rid of all those pesky other women, get them out of here. But conveniently, the parade of people, like there's this big parade of people, it's giving Carnival a little bit as well. And now that they've got Leila back, the parade is headed north, and north is the direction they want to go. So they do that. That chapter also felt really weirdly pointless. Like, there was so much in it that I'm like, why was it in it? Like, why did we have the whole sequence where they lost track of Leila and Tobias had to kill a guard? What was that for? Aside from to prove that Tobias will kill, because we know that. He keeps doing it. Let's look at the bingo card really quick before I go. Let's see. All men but Toby are pigs. I mean, we do have the other boys, but like all of them are either gay or in love with Tobias's sister, so none of them are allowed to be pigs. So I think I might give it all men are pigs besides Tobias. I don't have a pencil. All men but Toby are pigs. Characters all have Jenna's voice. Yep, we're giving it that one. Country of Hats. I'll give it to it at the end, probably. Disabled character, yikes. Yep, giving it that one. Falling asleep and waking up. Should I give it that? I mean, it kind of is. We keep time jumping. And falling asleep and waking up is a lot like that, but maybe I'll wait. All men have the same body type. Hylas is skinny, because he's the twink. He's the only one with a different body type because he's the twink of the group. So I don't know, I might give it that one. Leila is a demigod and no one cares. Giving it that one, definitely. Leila threatened by other pretty straight women. Well, if we encountered any of those, aside from Tobias's sister, we would know, but we don't. Army, just a big faceless mob. Yep, giving it that. Sex scenes in weird times/places. I think we'll end up giving it that, but I'll wait. Flat characters. Yep. Main characters are always right. Yes. Villains have zero depth. Gonna wait, but I'm sure we'll give it that. Leila makes allies easily. I mean, when she does make them, they are kind of handed to her, but I think I'm gonna wait on that one. Leila forgets she has powers. Yes. She should have learned a lesson from that moment where she actively, in the burned out mill, she went, I should have given everyone teleportation powers. And then she didn't refill their teleportation powers tonight. So she learned nothing. Accidentally racist? I don't know if we've gotten there yet. I mean, I don't love what they do with Delphi, but we've seen so little of Delphi. Magic can do whatever, and Jenna feels checked out. I think I'm gonna wait on those. But let's see, do we have any bingos? Oh, we have a bingo. We have a bingo going diagonally from the right to the bottom. Upper right to bottom left. I think that's our only one at the moment. Here's what the bingo card looks like right now. So, that's where we're at. I need to go put ferrets away, and then I'm gonna go get a new tattoo today. That's exciting. I've only been wanting one for like 5 years, 6 years, a new one. I'm so bad. I would be covered in tattoos if it wasn't like such a challenge for me to schedule and like find an artist that I want and stuff like that. Excitement. But I have to go. I'll see you later. Hello, we are back for another chapter. I'm about to go on vacation this week, so I'm gonna get a couple of chapters read and then probably won't. Oh, this one's really short. I might actually read 2. We'll see if we can do that. The ferrets are out running around. So chapter 24 is with Leila. They were, last we saw them, traveling with the Carnival, you know, in this big chain to the north. Apparently they couldn't go north any other way. Apparently they've been traveling far enough though. They're going north. It's getting like actively colder. She can sense that it's getting colder as they go north. They're still in the city, though. I thought they'd be outside the city by now. If it was, like, getting noticeably colder, I thought they'd be out. No, they're still in the city. How big is this city? It's a big city. They have been traveling so long with this, like, caravan of revelers that people are getting tired. Then the singing has stopped. People are peeling off to go about, you know, their lives, whatever. And we're still in the city. And they're looking for another inn. Hopping from inn to inn is a danger that you run into with travel stories, and I didn't really talk about it, probably should have, in my video where I talked about how to write travel stories, but do watch out for too much inn hopping. Like, these people, for having to be hiding and, like, not being able to, like, be around civilization, have been to a number of inns. And yes, I am counting the brothel because it was really basically the same thing. They had their own rooms as essentially a hotel. Interesting that they basically stopped camping when they no longer had the disabled girl with them, who would have suffered the most from camping. Apparently, they are 2 days' journey from Kovar, but somehow still, are they in the same city? They're in Trigolia, and they were in a port city, which didn't have a name. Are they in the same port city, or did the parade go to a new city and they're in a different city? It is very unclear. Like, I am assuming Trigolia is the realm. Trigolia isn't the name of the city that they were in. I don't even think they were in, like, a main city. They were just in a port city on the edge of the big lake. Oh good, we finally get to see the reaction of these people, though, to the soldiers. It just took a really long time, and I wish that there had been more in combination with the celebrations last night. But they see some people throwing vegetables at the soldiers that are standing in formation in the town square. But of course, these guards are here mostly not to show us how the people of Trigolia feel about them, but to conveniently shout exposition, including that they are certain that Leila and company are here in Trigolia.
I mean, there definitely has to be a spy involved at this point, right? Like, there has to be. There's no way that Brontes can keep figuring out where they are unless somebody in Leila's group is telling him. I suspect Hylas, but, like, it never is going to come up in this book. And in fact, Leila kind of stops thinking about it and is just like, oh, my dad knows where I am at all times. That's fine. And I'm like, probably you have a spy who is somehow getting information back to your father. I don't know how. We don't find that out in this book. If we don't find that out in the next book, like, how is Brontes magic?
So basically, the guards finish up with, we're closing the borders, and then that's it, and we cut to Tobias in chapter 25, and I'm just going to keep going because it's also a pretty short chapter. They did manage to get a room in the inn. We cut to them already being in the inn, so even though there are soldiers everywhere saying that Leila and company are definitely 100% in Trigolia, they had no trouble getting a room at an inn. Hylas entered the room, promptly shutting the door behind him. I don't think we need promptly shutting the door behind him. I think that can be implied because they are in hiding. Also, if you really wanted to make sure that he was shutting the door, I don't think you need promptly. I don't think we need to be told how quickly he would be shutting the door. I think you could just say shutting the door behind him. I do want to be clear, though. I do appreciate how much more she describes than a lot of the other authors I've been reading. I am able to picture her worlds a lot more clearly, and boy do I like that. Now, of course, there are details missing, like what the fuck is the name of this city, and also things are a little disappointing, like everybody in Trigolia just wears gray except for on the party night, but that's mostly so that the soldiers wearing red stand out by contrast. I do like the descriptions. Please, give me more descriptions. Describe your world. Please, I am begging you. I want to picture your world. Selfishly keeping it in only your head is not fair. Again, we have the same danger we had in the last place. There's soldiers everywhere, and they're doing random searches. What's happening in the last town they were into. We keep having the same danger over and over again. I kind of wish we would vary it up a little bit. And in a way that makes sense. Like, yes, those witch finders from the Outlands were different, but also, you know my problems with that scene and the logistics of it. Although I would like to know, we haven't had any of these rooms described except for the fact that the other hotel room only had one bed, which they all had to rotate through, sharing. But what do the inside of the rooms look like in Trigolia as compared to Thesson? I don't need a lot. Obviously, don't spend an entire paragraph describing every single detail, but like maybe they use a lot of fishing decor because they are a port city, you know, like, or maybe they have a lot of eclectic items to decorate their rooms because there's a lot of trade going through, so maybe they would have a lot more variety of cultural items than they would in Thesson. Thesson seems very insulated. So, yeah, I don't know, things to think about. Leila's feeling guilty again. I don't know why we love to have our main girlies in all of these books being guilty. They're always feeling guilty. I get it. Guilt is an emotion that characters can and should have, but like it's so consistent. They all feel guilty. She's like, this is my fault because I'm the savior. It's Tandy. Tandy's here. Hi, Tandy. Tandy, are you the savior? Do you glow in the sun? She's like, in my head I do. She's gonna be right back up here. Anyway, what was I talking about? She feels guilty because she's the savior. She's the one that everyone's hunting. She glows in the sunlight. You know, and that's, like, fine to know that you are possibly the weakest link of this attempt at hiding. But, like, all of these girlies not only always feel guilty, but feel guilty for stuff that they can't control. She doesn't feel guilty for all the people she's murdered, the lives she's ended.
The fact that at one point in her life she stole another man's child, I'm still not over that. We just walked right past the fact that she stole a human being.
She doesn't feel guilty for any of that. The things that she actively did with her own hand. The thing she feels guilty for is the stuff she can't control. Like the fact that her skin glows. She has no control over whether her skin glows. So, and it's just such a common thing. I need to put it on the bingo card, like, girl feels guilty for something that isn't her fault. Let these women feel guilty, sure, for stuff that they actually did, for stuff that they could fix. But also, it mentions earlier about her dad that he's acting like she's already dead. And I'm like, what does happen if the savior dies before producing an heir? Has that just conveniently never happened, so we've never had to think about it? Because it seems like that could happen. What if she gets sick with a fever or something? I know she's unnaturally healthy, but like something could get her. A wound could get horribly infected, you know? Gangrene? Could gangrene kill the savior? I have questions.
What are the rules? What are the rules?
It's weird that we're in Tobias's point of view. I keep forgetting it because Leila is the one who's like talking the most in this scene so far and doing the most stuff, and Tobias is just like sitting here. So I don't know why we switched to his POV for this scene. But Tobias has a plan. And again, we don't need to be in his head to hear this plan because he's speaking it out loud and he's not thinking about it beforehand. So I don't know why we switched POVs. But Tobias says we need a decoy savior in some other realm so that they will distract Brontes and he'll go over there. And I'm like, okay, great idea, but how does he know that you're here? He seems very certain that you're in Trigolia. So like, who's the mole? Who's the rat? Who's telling him where you are? Because a decoy won't work if you have somebody feeding information to your enemy. And that's my theory right now, because otherwise, how does he know? The problem isn't that Leila is not a very good diplomat. The problem is that they're just being hunted too much. But we are going to be splitting the party, which is how Tobias is going to be captured. He says that he's going to go be the bait, draw the troops away so Leila can gain her army, which is like a fine idea, but also we're still not dealing with the problem that I think they have a mole. Leila is, of course, opposed to the idea of Tobias going to be the decoy. He wants to go to Ethiopia. Ethiopia? I don't know how to pronounce it. Is there a pronunciation guide in this book? I feel like we need one, honestly. I feel like all the books could have stood to have a pronunciation guide. I don't see one. I don't normally pay attention to pronunciation guides in fantasy books, but like I would appreciate one here. Again, this language sounds a little anachronistic. Brontes needs a reason to leave Trigolia. He needs a win. He needs a win. Tobias seems to be certain that he's going to be captured, though. Like, I thought maybe he'd want to go to other places just to be spotted there so that people would think he's there. But he's fully, like, he has meta-knowledge. He knows he's going to be captured. And he's like, Brontes won't kill me. I know he won't kill me because I'm the only link to the savior. Leila is obviously deeply upset about this, and she's like, I forbid it. I forbid you to go, which probably means Tobias will go because nobody ever fucking listens to Leila ever. Yep, and he just says, I'm leaving with or without your consent. So good, great. I'm so glad we have a queen who no one has listened to a single one of her orders this entire time. But also, Leila, if you don't want him to go, you should come up with an alternative, better plan, or at least an equally good plan. But Tobias is like, even though she's furious with me and she thinks our love means nothing, I am going to leave. And she just doesn't have a say in it. So he would save Leila even if it meant losing her forever. Ooh, how dramatic. I don't even hate this plot point necessarily, even though I don't think Tobias should be so certain that he's going to be captured. I think he should be like, no, I'll avoid him. I'll be evasive. I'll be like, I'll have teleportation powers. I'll be sneaky. But he's like, nah, it's fine. He can capture me, whatever. I'll just be tortured. It's fine. But I would really like it if Leila would get an opportunity to be a leader and have the plans and have the thoughts and be in command. But that doesn't happen for her. And it's so frustrating. She's supposed to be the God Queen. Anyway, I'm gonna stop there for now. We're back again. Day before I leave for my little vacation, so let's get a chapter in or two. Looks like at least a chapter with Leila. They'll be pretty short. And then another check-in with Tobias being tortured in the dungeons, which I don't think we keep needing. I think probably we could have gotten away with just that beginning part where he's being tortured and we wonder how he got there. And now we're kind of getting our answer as to how he got there, but I don't think we need to keep checking back in with him. Maybe there's going to be a big payoff for it, but I don't know. We're back with Leila, chapter 26. She's mad because nobody ever listens to her. Actually, that's probably not why she's mad. She's just mad because Tobias is leaving. I still don't know why Tobias is like, I'm going to be captured and that's fine. She can give him teleportation ability. And granted, there's a really inconsistent amount of time that it lasts, but if he makes sure that he comes back fairly frequently, he can get it re-upped. Until they leave the inn, in which time it may be a little bit more confusing. But like, for at least for a little while, he can go out and be spotted in all kinds of different places. But somebody follows after her after she's stormed out, and it's Raph. Raphael, once again, the men have to do everything around here. It's annoying me. Raphael's like, I'm here to help you come up with an alternative plan so Tobias doesn't have to do this. And I'm like, yeah, great. Okay, yes, I agree. We need an alternative plan. But I really wish that Leila could be the one who comes up with it. For some reason, Leila thinks he's lying when he says he doesn't want to see Tobias hurt either. And it's why? Why do we hate Raph? I just don't understand. He's a little pragmatic sometimes, and usually that's because he's saying the logical thing when everybody else is being goofy. Why do we hate him? I don't know. Apparently he just doesn't even have an aura because she looks at Raph and the air around him is quote unquote devoid of color, which means that sometimes people just don't have auras at all. And if not, why not? Raphael convinces her that he's here to help, and he's like, let's begin with the borders. And she's like, yes, that's exactly where my mind went. And I'm like, we're in your mind. No, it didn't. You were no thoughts head empty about this whole thing. You were just mad that Tobias wants to leave. This is exactly what she needed. Another sharp mind to discuss tactics and schemes with. Another, implying that she thinks that she has a sharp mind. It would be great if that was demonstrated anywhere within the pages of this book. In the previous book, she's not very sharp-minded either. When she needs something translated from Covarian, she does not think to speak to the person who is a Covarian in that book. Her main method for dealing with any problem in the Savior's sister is to murder it. So I am not at all slightly convinced that Leila has like a sharp analytical mind. Raphael is certain that the borders that they need to cross are going to be extremely well guarded. Like no gaps, no weak points, super well guarded. But hey, Leila comes up with an idea. Which isn't a bad idea. She says we need a distraction, something really big, like an explosion or something. She comes up with one idea and Raphael pokes a hole in it. And rather than like go from there and figure out, well, okay, here's how I deal with the problem that you brought up, she just says, why are you dismissing every idea that I have? First of all, you had one. And second of all, he's poking holes in it to help you make the idea stronger. Leila would not handle having her book critiqued very well, because every single time that someone like me, a developmental editor, went, hey, this doesn't make sense, she'd be like, why are you poking all these holes in my story? Instead of understanding that I'm pointing these things out so you can fix them. Leila's like, okay, I give up on my initial plan. The distraction thing we're still going with, but the explosion thing is too difficult. We're going to send a scroll to Europa, you know, that place that I can't pronounce, that claims that I have been sighted there, which seems like a dumb idea. We'll send Hylas because he's been there before so he can shadow walk there and he can deliver the scroll that says that I've been spotted in Eurovision. Oh, okay, apparently he has not been to Ethiopia, so he can't go. So why did they, she was like, Hylas can go, and I assumed she picked him because he'd been there before, but he has not, which Raph points out. Again, he's here to be the logical one, and Leila's gonna be like, why you gotta be such a Debbie Downer? She is acting like he is nitpicking every little detail, but he's pointing out glaring flaws in her plan. Like, we'll teleport some guy to this place. He's never been to that place, so he can't teleport there. And she's like, damn it, Raph, stop pointing out all these tiny little details. Like, why won't you help me out? It's like, oh my God. I sincerely hope that this is not how Jenna behaves when she's receiving critique. She says, oh, for fuck's sake, because he keeps pointing out enormous holes in the plans that she's come up with so far. And he's having to be so gentle with her, like, "Shh, it's okay, baby, it's okay. I just want your plans to be perfect, that's all." Maybe I don't want her to take the lead because she seems dumb and unhinged. And then it just turns out that Raphael was trying to make her come up with Tobias's idea all on her own, which is dumb. She's like, "Damn it, Raph, he made me figure out the logic of the plan." And I hate that. I hate that. Let her come up with other ideas that are good, that are viable. Maybe they even try those things. But no, Tobias's plan is clearly supposed to be the right plan. Like, maybe they come up with a better plan and Tobias just, you know, he's a little bit unhinged, as we've seen. He tends to leap before he looks, as we've seen so far in this book. So let them come up with a better plan, but before they can get it off the ground, Tobias just goes with his plan anyway. So Raphael convinces her that Tobias's plan is in fact the very best plan, even though they really didn't go over that many other plans, and she gave up the moment he poked obvious holes in them. Rather than trying to shore up the plan with better ideas, she just gave up and is like, "Yep, Tobias's way is the only way," and then she has a little cry about it, and then we're just going to go on to the dungeon again to watch Toby be tortured for a bit longer, because I can't remember, did we know that Pippa was down here? Pippa's down here. I think maybe we found that out. So she's not safe, like Delphi thinks. But the guy who has been torturing Tobias is Leila's basement dad, and so Tobias watches as he feeds and tends to Pippa. Then basement dad comes over and gives Tobias some bread as well. Then basement dad gives Tobias a drink of some, like, bottled savior magic, which I think is blood, if I remember correctly. Like, they bleed her so that they can use her magic for other things, but it will heal Tobias. Not too much. Don't want it to look suspicious, but it'll heal him up a little bit. And Tobias is like, "Why don't you just kill the Sovereign?" And basement dad is like, he's always really well guarded." Okay. And you're a giant. Like, the Sovereign's down here with basement dad torturing Tobias by himself. So all basement dad has to do is turn around and strangle the Sovereign to death. Yeah, you might get in trouble for it, but then the Sovereign is dead. And that's the end of the chapter. We just needed to know that basement dad is on Tobias' side and also taking care of Pippa, I guess. I don't know if that's important for the plot, that we needed to find that out. But that's all I'm going to do for today, because I have, unfortunately, too many other things to do. Hello, we are back. It has been over a week since I read this, because I went on vacation. So we cut to Tobias either in real life or fantasy, haven't figured out which yet. But he and Leila are snuggling, and he's reveling in getting to hold her, because of course he is. Heaven forbid he ever have an uncharitable thought about his girlfriend. Never once. But it says, "The steady rise and fall of her shoulders." I'm sitting here thinking about how I breathe, like when I'm laying, or when I'm sitting, or anytime. I guess my shoulders rise a little bit if I take a big breath, but it's mostly the rise and fall of my chest. I mean, I guess a little bit. I just don't think of shoulders as being a thing that rises and falls a lot when people are breathing. Do I breathe weird? Getting self-conscious about my breathing. Maybe my shoulders should move more. This is not a fantasy. She has just forgiven him and they're cuddling again. Thank goodness that very brief conflict lasted like 10 seconds. Now, to be clear, I am not a huge fan of forced conflicts. Forcing a conflict into your book just because they're supposed to be one in a certain spot, like, oh, it's book 2, the couple has to have an arbitrary breakup. Like, if it doesn't work for your story, don't force it in there. But honestly, these guys are under incredible stress, and it would make sense for them to have more conflict than they are having. Occasionally yelling at Raphael because he has a good idea is not the same as having realistic interpersonal conflict. They're just gushing over each other. We know you love each other a whole stinking lot. So much love. Writing a second book where the couple is together is really challenging. I'm just thinking about this, probably because I don't want to keep reading them gush over each other and how special they are. It is really challenging because, you know, you got the first book, and in this series case, the second book as well, where it's the pining, the build-up, the thing that people really want. And then what a lot of authors do in the second book is, so that they can have that pining and build-up all over again, they separate the couple or they break them up so they can pine after each other. What if you don't want to do that? I respect that Jenna didn't want to do that. I fully respect that choice, because we don't see that enough of couples staying together. But What I would prefer to see for myself is not just them having like great sexual chemistry and like loving, snuggling, and lying in bed together or whatever. I want to see them really working as a team. They're not working as a team. Tobias is the one in charge. Leila is a tag-along in a book where she has a point of view, and she's the God Queen. It's really kind of astounding for a character like Leila to kind of take the back seat to the man in this book. I was not expecting that. I was expecting her to be kind of insufferable in a completely different way. Like, I expected her to be taking charge and demanding respect and killing anybody who got in her way. She's really kind of a wuss, a soggy little whiny baby who will, yes, kill people, but the rest of the time she lets everyone walk all over her and just is like, Tobias, he was mean to me. You better go tell him what's what. And Tobias is like, of course, baby. And he goes over and tells the mean person what's what. And that's not a dynamic that I like. Maybe it's a dynamic that speaks to Jenna or others, but it's not one that speaks to me, and not one, like, I do not have a relationship like that with my husband. I'm still craving that story of a couple that is together, but they have just the really strong partnership. If you know of such a book, please recommend it to me, especially if it's not just, like, romantasy and all about the sexy times. But Tobias is like, I am leaving tonight. You have to marry me, Leila. Marry me right now. Tobias is like, if I die tonight, I want to die as your husband. And she says, you're not going to die. I'm going to rescue you. And I feel like they're just making so many foregone conclusions. Why does Tobias have to be captured? Why is that 100% fully part of the plan? It's not just he's going to go to different places and get sighted to confuse the enemy. He's going to go to a different place and be fully captured. They fully expect him to be captured and tortured. But also, we have this aspect of where you could say, oh, well, the guy gets damseled in this one, and it's like, he's fucking damseling himself. That's a little bit different. Oh, she has to save her man. Yeah, because he's being an idiot. I just don't understand why this plan requires everybody certain that he's going to be captured and she's going to have to rescue him. Why?
We are protected by the enormity of your stupidity.
Hey, buddy, you want to come up? Come on. I made space. Come on. There you go. Get your old man body up here, old man. Yeah, there you go. I keep forgetting whose POV we're reading from because they do have the same voice. Also, I was editing the beginning of this book. I haven't made it past the second page of this chapter. This is real bad. But I was editing the beginning of this series, and one of her trigger warnings were for PTSD. And I would like you to point out the PTSD to me in this book. Like, Tobias gets real angry sometimes, but he was always kind of an angry boy. Like, I remember him getting angry and flying off the handle in the first book as well. So I think that's just him. Where's the PTSD? In one chapter, he, like, thinks about being in the arena, and then we move on. So I don't think we're really actually doing a very good job of exploring PTSD. I've never been diagnosed with PTSD. I suspect I may have some, but I've never been diagnosed with it. But I don't think this is accurate to PTSD. Maybe Jenna has been diagnosed with PTSD and this is accurate to her experience? Can you point out to me in the book? I would love to ask her. Point out to me in the book where you have written the PTSD. I would like to know. But Leila gets her tits out, so I guess we're gonna have another sex scene. She's writhing against him and I'm having fucking Crown Tide flashbacks. You wanna talk about PTSD? I've been in the wars. So she's like, we're not gonna get married before you go because you need something to look forward to for when I see you again. We're saving that for book 3, y'all. But she is like, but we are gonna do it as a proper goodbye. I do like, I don't love these sex scenes, but I do like that Leila is being instructive in this one. She's telling him what she would like him to do. Simple things, kiss my neck, touch my chest. I like that. More couples should do that. I'm so sick in these romantic books of the couple just automatically always knowing what the other one, the perfect thing for the other one that they've never even thought of. People should know what they like in the bedroom and ask for it. And it can be as simple as asking your partner to kiss your neck. Oh, she slinked again. We have so much slinking. She got off him and she slinked away. Now he's writhing against her body, and I'm like, okay, are you just trying to give me flashbacks to Crown Tide now? And she bucked her hips. Jenna, are you doing this on purpose? Is this all just a sex scene? Did I just get tricked into reading another chapter that's just a sex scene? I'm getting real mad about that. Please let other things happen in your chapters. Do we have to have an entire sex scene chapter? I guess maybe it's easier for me to skip, except for I can't skip because I'm reading this for you guys. I'm skimming now, though, because they're still going. And it doesn't look like, I mean, the chapter's almost over, so I think that's just what we're getting. Oh, but thank God, you guys, okay? Okay, I know you were panicking about this, but finally, since they're both all nice and warmed up, they're gonna do the P&V. You're shocked. You're shooketh. You don't know what to do with yourselves. It's interesting that we are getting their first P&V sex scene from his point of view. Like, why did Jenna make the choice to write this from the man's POV? I'm just curious, because the woman's POV is an option, and it would be something that she has obviously had more experience with. A lot of writhing, a lot of bucking. I guess maybe we only have so many words to describe these things. You remember in the first book, and technically the second book, she touched him a whole lot during a makeout session, and then he had like a blessing on him the next day. Is that going to happen again with these sexy claw marks that she's leaving on him, or is that just to be hot? I don't know.
Get used to disappointment.
He's thinking about his dead friend to keep from climaxing too soon. That's a choice. He's like, what can keep me from going too soon? I know. Thinking about how Milo is dead.
Excuse me, what?
Back me up here. Does anybody else think about dead friends when they don't want to climax too soon? I don't know. Maybe is that normal? Am I weird? Okay. I'm not a man, so maybe you have to. Maybe that's the only thing you have. I've heard guys think about baseball, but like thinking about deceased friends, that's the way to go.
Cassidy has stories to tell.
Well, that's okay. I'm almost done with this chapter, and it's just a stupid sex scene chapter. I hate it that these books keep tricking me into reading entire chapters of sex. So yeah, that was just the sex scene chapter. They came together at the same time, and it was the most perfect experience they've ever had in their entire fucking lives, and they want to do it a million more times. That's the whole chapter. Thank God I read that. I would never have known that they did it.